Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
After greeting their former classmates, Team Asuma was assigned to help the villagers with their luggage. With the 6 extra arms and Naruto's shadow clones, they finished a couple hours before sunset. Since the evacuation wouldn't start until the next morning, the only question left was what to do in the meantime. Maybe we should get some training in, to get ready before the inevitable Odo attack comes, Naruto suggested. From what your sensei told us, you barely came out alive from your latest fight. Then you've been helping these people pack their stuff. And yet you still have energy for training? Shikamaru asked incredulously. Man, I get exhausted by just being near you. Maybe that's why he's so energetic, because he siphons the stamina and chakra of those around him? Choji suggested half-jokingly. If that was the case, then Shikamaru would be unaffected since he has none to begin with, Ino replied. But then again, I agree with Shika. Besides, tomorrow's mission is going to be insane. We should get all the rest we can. I agree with Ino. Besides, I still haven't recovered completely from the battle with Mizuki, Hinata mentioned, making a conscious effort to suppress the sensei honorific. Speaking of which, I can't believe that guy ended up joining another village, and one created by Orochimaru, no less. To think that he used to be our instructor, Shikamaru mused as he rubbed the back of his neck. Maybe we will see him again, if he decides to finish the job, Choji mentioned. Heh, if that traitor's stupid enough to show his ugly face a second time, it will be me who's going to finish the job. Naruto punched his palm vigorously. By the way he spoke, everybody guessed that Naruto actually wanted for Mizuki to show up again. We still haven't decided what are we going to do until we go to bed, Shikamaru reminded everyone. How about some culinary tourism? This is the first time I've been out of Konoha, and I'd like to see what they eat in other countries, Choji suggested. There were only like 2 restaurants in the town, and both of them are now closed due to the evacuation thing, Naruto explained, and noticed how Choji's mood soured. But that doesn't mean that we aren't going to have dinner, Hinata interceded, hoping to at least reassure Choji a bit, aware of the Akimichi's love of food. In fact, why don't we have dinner now? Yeah, that can work too, Naruto agreed. Let's go back to the inn. That way we can check on Haku as well. While they walked the relatively short distance towards the inn, the group of 5 separated into 2 subgroups, boys and girls. Though a more accurate statement would have been Ino grabbing Hinata and dragging her away from the 3 boys, who were casually chatting with each other. Hinata wasn't sure what Ino wanted, but her unnerving smile made her a bit nervous. Okay, Hinata, we didn't have a chance to talk after we graduated, so now you're going to spill everything, Ino demanded in an oddly commanding tone. Spill? What are you talking about? The Hyuga heiress asked. Ino grimaced. About the state of your relationship with Naruto. Duh. The blonde replied as if stating the most obvious thing. Come on, everybody knows that you have the hots for him, and you got lucky enough to be in the same team as him. I mean, I can see that you're not formally a couple yet, but I'm sure that you progressed in some way beyond the just friends stage, right? Hinata turned extremely red, averted her gaze, started to fidget with her fingers while she tried to elaborate a response. But all that came from her mouth was inelegant blubbering. That was enough for the gossip-hungry blonde. Nothing yet? Ino grimaced. Come on, girl. If you don't take the initiative, some other girl will take him away from you. While Naruto may not be my type, he's kind of cute, plus he's the son of 2 Sannin, which will increase the popularity factor, and thus the number of girls after him. Well, it's that. And Naruto-kun is my friend and I don't know if he likes me that way, the shy Hyuga replied. Ino wrapped an arm around Hinata's shoulders and her face came uncomfortably close to Hinata's. Nonsense. You're a cute girl, and Naruto would be a dumbass if he doesn't realize what he has in front of his eyes. Unfortunately, we have more pressing matters at hand now. But once all of this is over and we're back home, we'll work to make sure that blonde knucklehead notices you. Hey! Naruto shouted indignantly. Who's this blonde knucklehead you were talking about? Ino didn't realize that she had raised her voice that much, and that Naruto wasn't that far away from them. While he didn't catch the whole conversation, his ears perked up at those two words. And nobody, Hinata quickly replied. We're talking about a cousin of Ino T that's been annoying her lately. Shikamaru, and even Choji, realized that Hinata was telling a huge lie. However, the blonde merely smiled. Oh, if you say so, I believe you. I know that you would never badmouth me behind my back, Hinata. Naruto happily concluded, before returning to his conversation with Shikamaru and Choji. Hinata sighed wearily. While it would have been heartwarming in any other circumstance, Naruto's blind confidence in her made her feel even worse. I can't believe I lied to Naruto-kun like that. Well, it was me who called him a knucklehead, not you. Ino reassured, her voice now being lower. She then grinned. But did you see that? He trusts you a lot. That's a good sign. Ino, is there something I can do or say to make you drop this topic? Hinata asked exasperatedly. Ino's smile grew even wider. Nope, nothing. Senju residence, Konoha. Upon arriving home, Jiraiya saw that Tsunade was already there. After greeting her, he decided to get to the point and told her about Naruto's message. As he predicted, Tsunade pretty much exploded. Though given that the house was still standing, her reaction wasn't as catastrophic as the Toad Sage had initially feared. So Naruto goes on his first mission out of the village, and he accidentally stumbles on Orochimaru's secret lair. Tsunade shouted as she threw her hands in the air. I knew that something would go wrong, damn it. I should have never given him that accursed necklace. Listen, there's no way we could have known what was going to happen. Jiraiya tried to reassure her. Besides, I already sent reinforcements. Naruto will be fine. You sent another rookie squad, and Orochimaru's former pupil. Kami knows how many ninja that Snake has under his command. Tsunade countered. Hey, the Uchiha insurrection did a number on our forces. That was the best I could come up with at the moment. Not the best. You could have sent me. Tsunade replied, as her frown deepened. Jiraiya frowned in return. Swanda, no. We can't forsake our responsibilities whenever Naruto faces some danger. The life of a ninja is a dangerous one. We know it and he knows it. We are needed here. I know. But I can't help but feel worried. He's still a kid. Tsunade rubbed her arms as she averted her gaze. I'm worried too, but I have something that will alleviate some of those worries, Jiraiya said, and much to her confusion, he spread a map of the elemental nations in front of her. Then, the white-haired Sannin made a hand seal, and multiple tiny symbols and kanji appeared on the map, most of them concentrated on Konoha. Jiraiya, what is this? I have marked many people with a tracker seal that allows me to pinpoint their location on this map at any moment. Jiraiya pointed to a tiny symbol on the land of the rice fields. This is Naruto. The seals are linked to their life forces, meaning that if they died, they would not appear in the map, and I would feel the seal disappear. So, Naruto is still okay, Tsunade said, somewhat relieved. Then she frowned again when a realization dawned upon her. Wait a minute, how many people did you mark with that seal? I hope I'm not among them. Jiraiya just chuckled. I know better than that, Haim. The marked people are Naruto, Hagane, Kaida, and a bunch of people that haven't earned my full trust yet. Tsunade's mood somewhat lightened. So Naruto's safe for the moment, but that could change anytime soon. From what I know, Naruto and the others should return to Konoha. I also know that tomorrow one of my strongest jonin will return from his mission, and I will send him as additional backup. You speak of Itachi? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya shook his head. He was my first option, but sadly he won't come back in time. Fortunately, I got news that another group finished their mission, and send them a message to go to the land of the rice field to assist Naruto's group. They're ANBU, so they should be enough. If you say so. Jiraiya then came close to Tsunade and kissed her on the cheek. Come on Haim, have some faith in Naruto. I'm sure that tomorrow night he will be back here in one piece, and we will laugh at how worried we were. Swanda sighed, but solemnly nodded. Okay, I'll try not to get too worried. Sawa Town next morning. The 2 Jonin and 1 special Jonin were awake half an hour before the sun would rise. Asuma was up even longer than that since he had taken the last watch of the night. They woke up the 6 Genin and told them to wake up the villagers in return, so they could start the evacuation as fast as possible. The Genin did as instructed, but still it took almost an hour before everybody was ready to go. After taking one last look at their hometown, the residents of Sawa Town began their march. Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji were placed at the head of the caravan, which would serve as a reconnaissance force. Naruto, Hinata, and Haku were placed in the middle, and between Naruto's clones and Hinata's Byakugan, they would make sure that the caravan wouldn't fall prey to potential ambushes. And lastly, Kurenai, Anko, and Asuma were in the back, where it was more likely for an attack to come from. The atmosphere was tense, very tense, and it wasn't just the civilians. The ninja, both children and adults alike, knew that they were in hostile territory, and they wouldn't be safe until they reached the land of fire. Anko decided to start a conversation, not just to keep her mind busy, but to get as many details of Orochimaru as possible. So tell us, Kurenai, what exactly did you see in the capital? Anko inquired. The city had been completely ravaged. There was some signs of a fight, but it appeared as if it was the work of a colossal beast rather than an army of ninja. Kurenai recalled. That sounds awfully a lot like the job of a snake summon, Anko concluded. More than likely Manda, the snake boss, Orochimaru never earned his respect, and had to offer sacrifices in order to appease him. I guess that he probably summoned Manda to destroy the capital and thus get on his good graces, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That bastard, Asuma growled. Those poor people never had a chance to begin with, right? Sadly, that appeared to be the case. These may as well be the last free citizens of the land of the rice fields. Too bad we couldn't save more, Kurenai mentioned while she looked at the caravan in front of her. Anko smiled a bit. Hey, focus on the people you saved than on those you couldn't save. You did a great job. Kurenai smiled in return. So, how long until we reach the border with the land of fire? Asuma asked. I guess that a couple more hours should do. Give or take a minute, Anko replied. But I wouldn't put it past Orochimaru and his minions to ignore the borders and chase us into the land of fire. That would be a suicide. Orochimaru may be a madman, but even he knows that doing such a thing would be like declaring open war upon us. Kurenai interceded. Well, you guys kinda entered his domain first. Because we got a mission request from one of its towns. Kurenai loudly protested. If that bastard wants to use that to claim to other villages that Konoha invaded his dash. Kurenai-sensei. A loud yell made the 3 Jonin to turn their head to the source of the voice, and saw Naruto, or rather, one of his clones, rushing at them. Naruto, what's going on? The blonde stopped in from of the 3 adults, panting. Hinata saw something with her Byakugan, a massive snake coming from behind. The 3 adults looked at each other, exchanging worried looks. How far? Asuma asked. The range of her Byakugan is 1 kilometer, so I guess it would be that. But now it will be even closer. It will take a couple minutes for the snake to arrive. Kurenai walked to the clone and grabbed him by his shoulders. Naruto, Asuma, Anko, and I will take on the snake. Your team and Asuma's genin will protect the caravan while we fight. There might be a chance that this is just a trap to get us out of the way, so if you pick up more enemies or are under attack, send us a signal. Shikamaru knows a couple of fire jutsu, so that should work. Asuma added. Is that clear? Protect caravan, call for help if we're under attack. The clone repeated. Kurenai nodded. Stay safe and watch each other's backs. Kurenai said before she stabbed 2 fingers on the clone's neck, dispelling it. The earth started to shake. The 3 adult ninja slipped into their usual fighting stances. Here it comes. The ground shattered as a massive, gray snake emerged from below. The 3 Konoha ninja leapt backwards, all of them making hand seals while in air. Fire release, great flame jutsu. Asuma expelled an expanding stream of flames at the snake. Fire release, dragon fire jutsu. Anko released flames shaped like a dragon that flew at the snake. Wind release, great breakthrough. Kurenai motioned her arms forward, creating a huge gust of wind that increased the potency of Asuma and Anko's attacks. The snake loudly hissed in pain upon being hit by the attacks, its skin catching fire. The reptile, however, quickly shed its skin and put some distance between them. At that moment, 2 figures landed on the giant snake's head. Kukuku, impressive display. I think you 3 will be more than enough to test my new abilities, one of the figures said. Anko's blood froze upon hearing the new voice. From atop the giant reptile was the unmistakable pale visage of Orochimaru, wearing the black and red Akatsuki cloak, smiling teasingly at her. Besides him was a glasses-wearing, silver-haired man that Anko paid no attention to. Orochimaru? Asuma asked, mildly shocked. I knew that he had conquered these lands, but I never thought that he would come out to fight us personally, Kurenai replied, trying not to shake. She knew this was a foe in a league way above hers. Anko noticed her friend's reaction and decided to intervene. Don't be afraid of him. That's what he wants. Deep down, he isn't that strong. Orochimaru merely chuckled. Not that strong? You hurt my feelings, Anko-chan. Orochimaru's lips formed a cruel smile. But if you're so sure, you're welcome to fight me. The last time we saw each other I was on a schedule, but now I have plenty of time to spare. And I want to check how much have you grown since the last time we fought. Orochimaru-sama, what about the genin and the civilians? His lackey asked. Take care of them, Kabuto. Killing mere genin and civilians won't be a good way to test my new strength. Right? Kabuto then jumped from the snake and dashed towards the bulk of the caravan. Kurenai attempted to stop the silver-haired Oto ninja, but in the blink of an eye, Orochimaru was in front of her, his expression unchanged. Now the 3 Konoha ninja were surrounded by the Sannin and his pet snake. I'm afraid I can't let you interfere with Kabuto's mission, but if you care so much about your students' well-being, it should serve as a motivation to defeat me, right? The snake Sannin chuckled. But even all the motivation in the world is useless without an equal amount of strength and the skill accompanying it. Listen, we don't need to defeat him. Just create an opening for one of us to leave and help our genin, Asuma suggested. As much as I enjoy a good conversation, I believe this chattering has gone long enough. Orochimaru adopted a fighting stance, while the giant snake behind prepared to pounce them. I agree, but first let's even playing field. Anko bit her finger and ran through hand seals. Summoning jutsu. From a cloud of smoke, a giant snake appeared. Though it wasn't as big as Orochimaru's, it looked visibly surprised upon seeing one of its own, a reaction which was mirrored by the second snake. However, the shock was short-lived, as both snakes looked at each other and nodded as if reaching some sort of unsaid understanding, before finally disappearing in a puff of smoke, much to Kurenai and Asuma's confusion. Smart. Really smart, Anko-chan. Orochimaru praised his former student, his smile remaining unchanged. Anko, what did you do? Kurenai asked, a bit puzzled. Easy. Two summons of the same tribe can't fight each other. If two summoners are at odds, as is the case of Orochimaru and myself, then our summons will refuse to fight for us until the dispute is over. So neither Orochimaru nor I will be able to summon snakes as long as the other is present. And given that Orochimaru can summon stronger snakes, I deprived him of an advantage. The special Jonin explained. Your constant underestimating of my abilities had some naive charm at first, but now it's starting to become irritating. It's about time I show you three the huge gap between our power. Orochimaru quickly motioned his arms forwards. Many hidden shadow snake hands. A myriad of angry hissing snakes emerged from the Sannin's sleeves and flew towards the Konoha ninja, who jumped back in an attempt to avoid their poisonous fangs. Damn it, that bastard still has access to some snake-based jutsu. But if he can, then so can I, Anko thought as she fended off the snakes. Asuma's hands flew through hand seals. Fire release. Ash pile burning. Asuma then exhaled a huge cloud of gunpowder that covered Orochimaru completely. Asuma made a hand seal, making the gunpowder to explode, engulfing everything within the cloud in fire. However, much to his shock, Orochimaru jumped from the explosion almost unscathed. Sword of Kusanagi. Orochimaru opened his mouth, and a snake came out of it, which in turn vomited the sword in question, which flew at Orochimaru's hands. Killing you will be a nice way to get revenge on my former sensei. Asuma quickly pulled out his chakra blades and parried an incoming swing from Orochimaru's sword. The two of them continued trading blows, Orochimaru acting more aggressive, forcing Asuma on the defensive. Fortunately for the latter, he had two kunoichi that could provide him some backup. With a kunai in each hand, Kurenai dashed at Orochimaru, who quickly raised his sword to protect himself from the red-eyed woman's swings and deliver one of his own. However, much to Kurenai's surprise, the sword of Kusanagi cut through her knives like they were butter, and the kunoichi barely avoided being slashed by the legendary sword. Thinking that such action left Orochimaru wide open, Anko pulled out a single shuriken and infused it with fire chakra before tossing it at Orochimaru. But before the flaming star reached the Sannin, Anko cast another jutsu in the span of a second. Shadow Clone Fire Shuriken Jutsu. Orochimaru, however, saw the attack, and in the blink of an eye, stabbed his sword on the ground, and formed more hand seals at an imperceptible speed. Wind release, wind wall. A tornado formed out of nowhere, encasing Orochimaru and protecting him from all harm. The shuriken were unable to fly any further, their fire snuffled out by the powerful winds before being pushed outwards. The wind was so intense that it hurled the three Konoha Jonin backwards as well. Fortunately for them, the wind barrier didn't last long. Kukuku. I was afraid that I would kill you without having the chance to test my new power, Orochimaru said in an almost orgasmic tone. I'm glad to see that that's not the case. Anko was the first one to get back on her feet. How did you see my attack? I knew you were fast, but that was impossible, even by your standards, Anko complained, frustrated. Because these eyes can see through everything, my dear student. At first Anko didn't realize what he was talking about, but it took no time for her to see it. Orochimaru's eyes were no longer yellow, but red. They also had 3 tomo around the still slitted pupils. Anko paled in shock. Orochimaru somehow had acquired the Sharingan. Their already low chances of survival had become even smaller. Wind release, cyclone vortex. Kabuto jumped over the cone of wind generated by Naruto and landed gracefully in front of his 6 rivals, while sporting a smug smile. If that's the best you have, then you may spare me the trouble and give up already, Kabuto taunted, not bothering to slip into a fighting stance. After Hinata detected Kabuto coming after them, the 6 genin decided to face him altogether and sent the refugees going, escorted by several Naruto clones. Hinata's Byakugan didn't see any more enemies coming after them, so she thought they would be fine. Hopefully, the clones would be enough until they reached the Land of Fire's border. How were she and her friends going to escape this four-eyed menace? That was another problem she wasn't sure how to solve. Give up? Nobody has been born yet that can make me to give up on anything, Naruto replied as he formed another hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 10 Narutos appeared around him and charged at Kabuto, whose smile grew even bigger. You seem to be an entertaining bunch. I'm sure Orochimaru-sama won't mind if I drag this fight a bit for my own amusement, Kabuto said as he engaged the clones. While Kabuto was busy with the clones, Haku pulled out a small scroll from his kimono and unfurled it on the ground. It was a sealing scroll with the kanji of water in the middle. After making a hand seal, Haku stepped on the kanji, and water started to pour from the scroll, creating a large puddle. Shikamaru, meanwhile, was trying to piece a plan together as fast as he could. The Naruto clones weren't going to buy him much time. Alright, this enemy is easily as strong as our Jonin senseis, so we need to tread extremely carefully. Naruto, Hinata, and Choji are the best hand-to-hand fighters, so they should be at the front, while the rest of us support them from behind. Shikamaru started to explain. We have the numbers advantage, so we should exploit that to its fullest. That means that we will attack him from every possible angle. With some luck, we might land some hits on him. After Shikamaru finished explaining his admittedly not-so-good strategy, Kabuto finished off the last Naruto clone. Okay, let's see. I should make sure that the Jinchuriki, the Hyuga, and the Ice Release user are incapacitated without receiving much damage. His sight then moved towards the other three genin. You three look like the newest incarnation of the infamous Ino Shikacho trio. Given that your bodies are nothing outside the ordinary, I guess Orochimaru-sama won't mind if I'm not as considerate on you, Kabuto mused as he menacingly advanced towards the 6 genin. Naruto-kun, I think that it would be wise to bring some reinforcements. Hinata interceded. While Team Asuma didn't know what she was talking about, Naruto merely nodded. The blonde bit his finger and made 5 hand seals before slamming his hand on the ground. Summoning Jutsu. Naruto hoped that Gamakazu would be enough to tip the scales in their favor. However, much to his horror, from the cloud of smoke didn't appear his usual summon, but a much smaller toad. Hi, I'm Gamatatsu. It's so great that somebody summoned me at last. Do you have some snacks? Gamtatsu was a chubby, happy-looking yellow toad, with orange markings around his eyes and lips. Like Gamakichi, he was also wearing a blue jacket. A wargurk. Naruto brought his hands to his head in horror. This was the last thing he needed. Who the hell are you? Where is Gamakazu? Naruto-kun didn't summon the intended toad? Hinata inwardly asked. Upon glancing at Naruto, she realized there was something slightly off about Naruto. His chakra network seems irregular. Maybe it was something Mizuki did to him? So you didn't want to summon me? Oh, what a pity, Gamatatsu said, a bit downtrodden as he lowered his head. I'm sure Naruto-kun didn't want to hurt your feelings, but right now we're fighting a powerful enemy, and we need a combat-capable toad who can assist us, Hinata softly explained. Well, I never fought before, but I have some training. I can help if you want. Better you than nothing, Naruto conceded. Gamatatsu regained his carefree smile and hopped on Naruto's shoulder. Resigning to having Gamatatsu as his partner for the time being, Naruto faced Kabuto once again, who was ready to attack. Let's see how well Konoha train its genin. Kabuto set his sights on Shikamaru and dashed at him. Let's start with you, Nara. Of course he had to go after me first. So troublesome. Shikamaru formed a hand seal. Shadow imitation jutsu. Shikamaru's shadow extended towards Kabuto, forming a somewhat thick line. Kabuto merely sidestepped aside and continued his rush. The shadow split into multiple tendrils that tried to grab Orochimaru's second-in-command's shadow, but he dodged all of them expertly. In no time, he was in hand-to-hand range with the lazy genius. Disappointing. Now die. blades of chakra formed from Kabuto's hands, and he thrust one of them at the shocked Nara. Though rather than kill Shikamaru, Kabuto's attack hit an ice barrier that wasn't there a second before. Choji appeared behind Shikamaru, grabbed him, and jumped backwards, putting some distance between them and the silver-haired man. Wait, that looks like Mom and Shizunichin's chakra scalpels. Does that mean this guy is a medic nin? Naruto pondered. Guys, do not let him touch you with that. They can cause internal damage. This is my chance, Hinata thought as she ran towards Kabuto while she made some hand seals. Lightning release, thunder palm. Hinata's hands crackled with electricity, and upon reaching Kabuto, tried to hit him with a lightning-infused palm strike. Kabuto parried her attacks and tried to cut her with his chakra scalpels, but Hinata was able to block them as well. Meanwhile, Haku was preparing an attack. Ice release, multiple piercing icicle shot. Suddenly, sharp icicles started to rain upon the Oto Jonin. He dodged some of them while shattering others, and the Konoha Genin weren't going to give him any time to breathe. Human bullet tank. Wind release, great breakthrough. Once again, Kabuto was barely able to dodge the massive rolling meat boulder that had become Choji, as well as Naruto's wind jutsu. He was so focused in doing so that he momentarily lost sight of what Shikamaru was doing. And that moment was all what the lazy genius needed, as Kabuto suddenly found it nearly impossible to move. Looking down, he realized that Shikamaru had trapped him with the shadow imitation jutsu. Shadow imitation jutsu, success, Shikamaru announced, complacently grinning. However, his grin was short-lived as Kabuto started to overpower his jutsu. Congratulations for catching me, Nara. But that pitiful jutsu of yours is nowhere near enough to contain me, Kabuto said, not losing his cool one bit. Then maybe this will calm you down. Ino made a hand seal pointing at Kabuto. Mind Scream Jutsu. Just like the name of the attack implied, Kabuto felt as if somebody screamed into his eardrums, though it appeared as if the scream came from inside his head rather than outside. He tried to instinctively bring his hands to his head, but Shikamaru's jutsu didn't allow him to. Naruto, Hinata, Haku. Attack him with everything you have, Shikamaru shouted. The three assault squad genin nodded and prepared for the attack. Wind release, Toad gun. Gamatotsu exhaled a huge stream of water, which was combined with a gust of wind created by Naruto. Ice release, piercing icicle shot. Haku formed an ice spear that flew at Kabuto. 8 trigrams, vacuum palm. Hinata thrust her palm forward, releasing a vacuum shell. And now my turn, Shikamaru said as he ran through hand seals. Fire release, shadow fire thread. Shikamaru exhaled a small fire stream that ran along his shadow in a straight line. The 4 attacks collided, creating a huge explosion. Woohoo! Nice one, guys! Ino cheered, jumping and pumping a fist in joy. Ino's mood wasn't shared by Hinata, who saw what really happened through her Byakugan. He somehow used a body replacement in the last second, Hinata warned as she continued to scan the area for the silver-haired man. Haku-kun, he's right below you, underground. Haku jumped a fraction of a second before Kabuto's hands could catch his ankles. I'm going to admit that you brats are a bit stronger than I had expected, Kabuto said as he started to unearth himself. But the game ends now. I agree, said a female voice. Suddenly, a tree grew right behind Kabuto, its branches wrapping around the silver-haired man, immobilizing him completely. What the hell would release? Kabuto asked in shock, but further inspection revealed otherwise. No, it's a genjutsu. Very clever, Kurenai's voice said, as the red-eyed jonin appeared before him from thin air. but knowing that won't be of any help. What are you doing here? There's no way you and your two cohorts could have defeated Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto asked as he tried to break free from the branches that kept him in place. No, sadly, we didn't. I managed to get past Orochimaru's eyes to come help the genin. But then again, I saw that they weren't doing so bad after all. Thanks, Kurenai-sensei, Naruto replied, blushing a bit. What are we going to do with him, Kurenai-sensei? Hinata asked. He seems to be some sort of lieutenant of Orochimaru's, which means that he has plenty of intel about him. We'll bring him to Konoha with us for interrogation. Kurenai made a hand seal. Don't worry, this won't hurt. When you wake up, you will be in a cell in Konoha. Like hell I will. And much to Kurenai's shock, Kabuto kicked her in the guts, no longer restrained by her jinjutsu. Using that window of opportunity, he made a hand seal and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Kurenai-sensei, he's 100 meters to the northwest and running away in that direction. If you're quick, you will catch him. Hinata was quick to inform. No, that's what he wants. Kurenai replied as she stood on her feet. I need to go back to help Asuma and Anko with Orochimaru. Should we go with you? Ino asked, a bit afraid. No. Orochimaru is way too powerful for you, especially now. Return with the refugees, they should be pretty close to the border with the Land of Fire. But what about you, Asuma-sensei, and that other woman? Choji asked. If this Orochimaru is that strong as you say. Kurenai smiled at the Akimichi kid. Your concern is touching, Choji, but don't be afraid for us. We can take care of ourselves. Now go. Kurenai and the 6 genin rushed in opposite directions. As the third member of the Sannin, Orochimaru was considered one of the most powerful ninja that Konoha ever produced. Jiraiya was a genius of hard work who never gave up, and Tsunade was part of a lineage of powerful ninja. But Orochimaru was a prodigy. He was intelligent, strong, cunning, and most of the time merciless. Very few ninja would dare to fight him. The Sharingan was one of the most feared bloodline limits to ever exist, even to the majority unaware of its terrifying evolution, the Mangekyo Sharingan. With a mere glance, a Sharingan wielder could instantly copy a jutsu that would take a normal ninja weeks or even months to master, besides being able to predict the opponent's movements with fearsome accuracy. So naturally, most people would think that fighting a Sharingan-wielding Orochimaru was a fool's errand. A suicidal fool's errand. Asuma Sarutobi never felt like a biggest fool in his life than now. His clothes had multiple cuts that reached his skin, some which leaked blood. His pair of chakra blades had been destroyed by a particularly vicious swing of the sword of Kusanagi. Fortunately, he always carried a spare pair. He had pumped even more chakra into the blades to endure the hits better, but doing so made his chakra reserves to pummel. He couldn't stay on the defensive all the time. If he wanted to survive, he had come to terms with the fact that there was no way they could win against him pretty quickly. He needed to attack as well. Hopefully Anko would be able to provide him an opening. He saw that the special Jonin was making head seals. However, this slight distraction allowed Orochimaru to sink his legendary sword on Asuma's shoulder. Fire release, fire dragon bullet. Anko exhaled once again a dragon-shaped stream of fire at Orochimaru, which nimbly dodged, while acting as if the attack was just a nuisance. Grabbing his injured shoulder, Asuma took advantage of this and jumped backwards, and ignoring the burning pain, started doing hand seals. Wind release, dust cloud jutsu. Anko would swear that he heard 2 voices shouting the name of the attack, which proved to be true as both Orochimaru and Asuma exhaled a gust of wind with gray dust on it against each other, clashing in the middle. Unfortunately, Orochimaru's attack had more power and pushed Asuma's backwards. Fortunately for Asuma, he wasn't alone. Fire release, fire dragon bullet. Anko combined her fiery attack with Asuma's, creating a huge stream of fire with burning dust that quickly overpowered Orochimaru's attack. Unfortunately, the Sannin used the body replacement, leaving a log in its place which was promptly obliterated. He copied my jutsu, Asuma exclaimed in disbelief. Now he knew how Kakashi's enemies must feel. The Sharingan is sure something, isn't it? Orochimaru gushed as he appeared in front of the two Konoha ninja. You don't realize how blind all of us are until you see the world through these magnificent eyes. Not that you will see much in the near future. Asuma, Anko, Kurenai's voice called, as the red-eyed Jonin landed behind them. The refugees and the genin already crossed the border. We need to go. Right? Asuma, do you need any help? Anko asked to her male partner. My shoulder hurts like hell, but I still can go on. Let's go, Asuma said, as he and the female Jonin prepared for their escape. How cute. The prey think they can outrun their predator. Orochimaru was genuinely amused. His smile, however, turned into a scary snarl. Do you think you can escape from these eyes? The Sharingan is far from invincible, you traitorous bastard. Anko reached for her pouch and pulled 2 smoke bombs, which she used to create a thick and wide smokescreen. While nothing escaped the Sharingan, Orochimaru still needed to see his opponents. If they escaped his vision, the Sharingan was pretty much useless. And as much as it pained the Sannin to admit it, a mere smoke bomb was more than enough to neutralize it and create an opening to escape. You're merely delaying the inevitable, Orochimaru said, still amused, as he began the chase. The snake Sannin took no time to reach one of his so-called prey, Asuma Sarutobi. Asuma had suffered some serious injuries in his duel against the Otogekyure leader, and thus was the slowest. He probably told Kurenai and Anko to go on without him born out of some ridiculous sense of chivalry. His pale hands flew through hand seals as he prepared a jutsu. However, said jutsu never came to be, as he was interrupted by a barrage of kunai coming from his left flank. In no time, Orochimaru's Sharingan locked onto another pair of red eyes. So they actually were preparing a trap, and Asuma was the bait. That meant that Anko wouldn't be too far either. Big deal, the result would be the same. From what he could see, Asuma seemed to care especially for that woman. He decided to target her instead, and maybe lure Anko as well. And, as expected, Anko reacted with another barrage of kunai aimed at the Sannin the moment he appeared to prepare a jutsu. Orochimaru cursed on the inside. This was dragging on way too long. If he could summon snakes, then this hunt would have ended a long time ago. But as long as Anko was there, that wasn't an option. That meant that Anko had to go, even if her 2 partners wouldn't let him touch her. Once again, Orochimaru shifted her target, expecting a preventive attack from Kurenai and Asuma. But said attack never came, and when Orochimaru cast his wind jutsu, Anko used the few seconds the Sannin had to slow down to increase the distance between them. Keep going. I can already see the border, Asuma encouraged his female partners. Do you think that a border between countries means anything to me? Orochimaru replied back as he increased his pace. Such trivialities won't stop me. You won't live to see the dawn of another day. No, but maybe we can stop you, a new voice said. Wood release, wood locking wall. Orochimaru's chase was stopped by several wooden pillars emerging from the ground, forming a thick and tall wall that stopped the Sannin in his tracks. Several Konoha ANBU landed on the top of the wall and on tree branches, surrounding the Sannin. So, for the first time in years, you finally decided to show your face, Orochimaru, the leader of the ANBU squad. A man with brown hair who was wearing a cat-like mask, stated, while crossing his arms. That will be your last mistake. Ku. Orochimaru couldn't help but chuckle. Despite the mask, he knew perfectly who was that man. Ah, my old guinea pig. It's good to see you again. I see that you're making a great use of my gift. Your gift resulted in the death of more than 50 children, monster. And that's just scratching the surface of your disgusting career. You have a lot to answer for. The ANBU captain retorted. The rest of the ANBU started to unsheath their swords. The captain made more hand seals, wood release, wood binding jutsu. More wooden branches emerged from the ground and wrapped around the Sannin as, ironically, snakes around their prey. At the same time, about half the ANBU jumped from their positions and landed near the Sannin with their weapons drawn. Still, Orochimaru looked undeterred. I guess that there's no way I can win against these odds, right? Orochimaru asked. The captain smirked behind his mask. You got it right. If that's the case, the best course of action will be a tactical retreat and try again under better odds. Farewell. And suddenly, Orochimaru melted into a puddle of mud, much to all the ANBU's frustration. The ANBU were about to chase him, but the captain stopped them. Let him go. If we chase him now, he'll pick us off one by one. Let's go back and escort the refugees to a safe place. All the ANBU nodded and followed their captain's orders. Hours later, the 9 Konoha ninja arrived at Konoha. The sight of the gates was truly a gift for their sore eyes. Kurenai couldn't help but let out an almost exaggerated sigh of relief. I never thought I'd be so happy to see the village, the red-eyed Jonin exhaustedly commented. First mission out of the village, and we run into freaking Orochimaru. I'm sure other ninja also had similar misfortunes during their first mission. Such is our life. Enko shrugged. And you three. Kurenai turned to cast murderous glares at her team. If I ever hear you complain again about doing D ranks, I'm going to use you as practice dummies for my A-rank Jinjutsu. Understood? While Hinata and Haku nodded and whimpered, Naruto wasn't deterred. Hey, we only wanted a little more excitement. None of us asked to fight against an S-rank ninja. Speaking of which, Shikamaru spoke up while looking at his sensei. Asuma-sensei, did you know that we would face ninja of such caliber? Because this was the first time we also left the village as well. Asuma sighed, trying to suppress his guilt. Yes, but my intention was to keep you from the fights. Your job would have been to help the other genin escort the refugees, while Kurenai, Anko and myself did the heavy lifting. Of course, none of us were expecting that Orochimaru himself would show up. But all of us came out of that alive, and that's what it counts. Live today to continue kicking ass another day, Anko cheerfully added. Given who we actually had to fight, I wasn't expecting you to be so cheerful, Anko, Kurenai commented. Anko just shrugged. I already told you that I'm good at seeing the positive side of things. If I wasn't able to, well, I don't think I could ever get out of the bed every morning. That, and the thought that that bastard will pay someday, preferably at my hands. After crossing the gates, the genin were dismissed, while the adults headed to the Hokage Tower in order to report Jiraiya the outcome of the mission. Senju residence. Hey, I'm home, Naruto announced as he walked in. Mom? Shizunichan? Koido. Hagain. Naruto. The orange-clad boy heard Tsunade's voice as she entered the living room. Oh, I'm so glad to see you back. Hee, it was nothing, Mom. I know that the mission kinda went south, but in the end everything came out fine. Naruto replied with a foxy grin. Tsunade sat in the couch and patted a spot near her, hinting Naruto to sit as well. Come on. This was your first mission out of the village. Tell me everything. Okay. You see, after a day or so traveling, we arrived at this town that... Naruto's tale started harmless enough, but it quickly took a dark turn with the mention of Mizuki, the academy teacher who fled from Konoha the night of the Uchiha insurrection with the scroll of seals in tow. If that traitor was working for Orochimaru, then that meant that the fallen Sannin had the scroll in his possession as well. But that was nothing in comparison to what happened next. Wait. You said that Orochimaru personally went to fight you? The horror in Tsunade's voice could be heard. Yeah, but Kurenai-sensei, Asuma-sensei, and Anko kept him at bay. By the way, he somehow had a Sharingan despite not being an Uchiha. But then again, Kakashi-sensei also has one. Orochimaru has what? Tsunade was close to hyperventilating. The fact that Naruto had survived this mission was a miracle. Calm down, Mom. I already told you that everything went fine in the end. The ANBU arrived in time to drive Orochimaru away and escort the refugees to a safe place. Yeah, sorry, it's that. Well, I was worried about you. This was the first time you left the village and had to face one of the worst missing nin of the entire elemental nations. Tsunade forced herself to smile. But let's be thankful that both you and your teammates returned in one piece. I'm sure this won't happen the next time. Still, what you told me about the land of rice fields and Orochimaru was worrying, to say the least. Your father needs to take some action against this, or else this could blow up in our faces. Hokage's office. Meanwhile, Kurenai, Asuma, and Anko just gave an oral report of the mission to Jiraiya, which was more or less nearly identical in essence to what Naruto told Tsunade, only with far more details. So, not only Orochimaru managed to acquire the Sharingan, but has his own country now. The white-haired Sannin sighed heavily. Things can never go right for us just once. What are we going to do, Hokage-sama? Anko asked. In my opinion, we should deal with this problem before it gets worse. I doubt Orochimaru will be able to withstand an attack from our forces, especially if we ask Suna for some help. While I share your idea, it's not that easy, Jiraiya replied. Orochimaru might ask for other villages' help, arguing that we're abusing our superior military to stop an emerging village from developing, and it could devolve into a massive war. No, first we must show the world that Orochimaru is a global threat before we take any action against him. Anko cursed under her breath, but nodded in resignation. What do you suggest to do, then? For the time being, we will send a team of spies to gather information about this new village. Once we have enough information on our foe, we will discuss our next course of action, Jiraiya stated. Now, given the kind of mission you just came from, I believe you earned a few days off to rest. Come back for another mission once you feel your teams are at 100%. Yes, Hokage-sama. The three Jonin replied in unison and left the office. Jiraiya got up from his chair and looked through the window, pensive. So the rumors were true. You created your own village. All right, Orochimaru, if you want a war between our villages, I'll be happy to oblige. Nothing will be more satisfying than beating you at your own game. Dad, can I ask you something? Naruto asked. Jiraiya turned at him absent-mindedly. The blonde Jinchuriki and the white-haired Hokage were resting under the shadow of a tree, after an hour or so of intense training. This time, Jiraiya had decided to come in person instead of sending a clone, and left Sarutobi to fill for him for the day, since there was something that he needed to do, something that a clone couldn't. What is your last name? The blonde asked. Why, Senju, of course. I thought you knew that, Jiraiya replied as if answering to something obvious. Naruto frowned in return. That's not what I mean, that's Mom's last name, he protested. I mean your last name before you married. Which, by the way, how is it that you got Mom's last name? In other couples, it's always the woman who gets the husband's last name. Is it because she's a Senju or something? Jiraiya chuckled. Yeah, you could say that, but it's actually way more simple. The reason I got her last name when we married is because I never had a last name to begin with. Naruto looked at him, eyes wide open in shock. What? And why not? You never knew about your family? Exactly. By the way, why this sudden interest in me, Naruto? I realized that I know a lot about Mom's family, mostly thanks to history books. But I know very little about yours, he explained. Then he frowned again. Besides, you almost never tell me anything about you. Jiraiya shrugged. You never asked. Besides, a man has to keep a little mystery, right? He chuckled. But then again, I didn't think my life before your birth was all that interesting. How can you say that? You are one of the Sannin and trained my biological father. Besides, I will judge if it's interesting or not, Naruto sharply stated. Now, why don't you have a last name? Jiraiya cleared his throat to tell, in his opinion, the uninteresting tale of how he became a Konoha ninja. 50 years ago, the elemental nations were engaged in the first ninja war. Sarutobi, my sensei as Tobirama's student, was part of the 7-man unit with the second leading it. There was this town whose name was lost to history, that Konoha ninja used to shelter and treat their wounded, before they were sent back to Konoha. So far, the Konoha ninja made a good job hiding their presence. But somehow, our enemies realized what Konoha was doing, and razed the village to the ground. When Sarutobi-sensei's unit went to the village as usual, they found nothing but scorched ruins, dead people and a single survivor. A baby not even a year old with snow-white hair. Sensei took that baby and brought him to Konoha, and he grew up in an orphanage. When that baby turned 5, he learned about what happened to the place he was born in, the parents he would never know, and how he was saved by ninja. And thus, he decided to become a ninja himself. And that ninja was you, right? Naruto excitedly asked. Jiraiya laughed in return. I believe that was obvious from the very beginning, don't you think so? So yeah, now you know why I don't have a last name, at least until I married Tsunadeheim. Though, like you said, even if I did have a last name, I don't think I would have the guts to make Tsunade discard her last name and adopt mine, given her family's importance not only in Konoha, but in the ninja world as a whole. What about me? Maybe I should have been a Senju too, Naruto mentioned. Hey, the Uzumaki used to be a very strong clan before Yuzushiogakura's fall. Besides, we thought that you should have something that linked you to Minato and Kushina, Jiraiya replied. Besides, I'm sure that in the future, you will make the name Uzumaki famous again. And what about Dash? Enough talking. Jiraiya interrupted Naruto as he stood up from his resting spot. We already chatted and rested enough. Now it's time to work on a very important matter. Naruto stood up as well. The Kyubi. Jiraiya nodded. Flashback. A few minutes after Asuma, Kurenai and Anko left, somebody knocked the door of his office. After telling them to come in, the person in question was Kurenai. Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but there's something that I need to discuss with you in private. While I do trust Asuma and Anko, I think this is something I should talk with you and you alone. At least for the time being, the red-eyed Jonin said. Jiraiya nodded, motioned her to take a seat, and made a hand seal. The privacy seals are activated. Everything you say will never leave this room. Kurenai took a few moments to mentally prepare before explaining her problem. You see, there was an unexpected incident during our mission. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. You mean another one? Yes, poor choice of words. Anyway, I'll get to the point. Shortly before we arrived at Sawatown, we stopped at the Valley of the End, since I thought it would be good for the kids to see a place with so much historical importance. And while we were there, Naruto noticed that the Kyubi was growing restless. Jiraiya was taken aback a little. Come again. It was as if the Kyubi disliked the place. I decided not to take any risks and leave as soon as possible and tell you about this once we were back in Konoha. You did good, Kurenai. Don't worry. I'll check Naruto's seal to make sure that the Kyubi isn't up to something and dash. Actually, I didn't finish. Of course, there is always more, isn't it? Jiraiya threw his hands in the air. Okay, tell me. During the fight with Mizuki, Naruto tapped into the Nine Tails power. It wasn't enough to beat Mizuki, but it clearly changed him and not for the better. Besides being more powerful, Naruto acted way more violent and reckless. Even feral, I should say. Jiraiya sighed and leaned back on his chair. Yes, there was a chance that this could happen. The fourth used the four-symbol seal since he wanted Naruto to use the power of the Kyubi at some point in his life. Otherwise, he would have used another seal that would have completely isolated the beast from Naruto. This, however, had the downside that the Kyubi has the ability to influence Naruto to some extent. According to what I could gather from other Jinchuriki, strong emotions are a good way to manifest the power of a tailed beast. If Naruto was angry with Mizuki for harming his friends. Yes, it looked to be the case when I arrived at the fight, Kurenai confirmed. I did plan to train Naruto on how to use the power of the Kyubi Jiraiya mentioned, but I always kept leaving it for another time due to my fear of what could happen. Then the Uchiha revolt happened and then I became Hokage. But I guess that I just can't keep putting this off any longer. By the way, I believe that I should have asked this the moment I became Naruto-sensei, but do you have any advice on what should I do if something like this happens again? Unless you're proficient with seal jutsu or mind jutsu, I believe there's nothing you can do. But I will create a sealing tag that can suppress the Kyubi's chakra, should Naruto ever lose control again. Good to hear that, Hokage-sama. Is there anything more you want to discuss with me? Kurenai shook her head. If that's the case, then you're dismissed. End flashback. Alright Naruto, let's get down to business. I've been putting this on hold for far too long, but we can't afford doing that anymore. Today, we will attempt to control the Nine Tails chakra, the Sannin announced. Naruto taken aback. Really? Are you sure? Given what your sensei told me, yes, we have no other options, sensing his godson's worry. He added, don't worry. I already have taken countermeasures in case anything goes wrong.
Okay, what do vedo?
Naruto asked. First of all, let's sit down in front of each other, the Toad Sage instructed while both he and Naruto sat down. Now what? Now close your eyes. Breathe and exhale slowly. Relax every muscle in your body. Gather all the chakra you can, but don't force it. Let it flow instead. Empty your head of thoughts. Once it's done, think on only one thing, the Nine Tails. Try to picture it inside your mind and let your chakra drag you towards it. Jiraiya's voice started to sound more and more distant. Naruto felt like he was falling asleep, but while somehow still being awake. It was an almost surreal situation. And to add to the weirdness, Naruto noticed that he was standing up, even if he didn't remember getting up. Confused, he decided to open his eyes. Much to his shock, the Jinchuriki wasn't in Training Ground 3 anymore with Jiraiya, but in what appeared to be a massive sewer. The floor was completely damp, yet Naruto didn't feel any wetness on his feet. There was nothing remarkable about that place, other than an equally massive gate that looked like the door of a prison. Cautiously, Naruto approached the jail gate. The distance between the bars was big enough for Naruto to slip between them, but he didn't want to get inside the cell. As he got closer, he could hear something rumbling in the back of the cell, where there wasn't enough light for the blonde to see. Hello? The blonde timidly called. Is somebody there? Naruto's answer came in the form of a loud grumble, as well as a pair of red eyes glowing in the darkness, looking into his very soul. Oh, look who finally came to pay me a visit. Naruto found the guttural voice vaguely familiar. Naruto gulped and cleared his throat before speaking. Are you the Nine Tails? The occupant of the cell moved closer to the gate, and now Naruto could see a massive orange fox with multiple tails. Naruto didn't count them, but he guessed there would be 9, and red eyes that glowed faintly. Your observational skills are worth praising, brat. I'm sure that you are considered a prodigy among your peers. Naruto could swear that the fox was mocking him. Still, he decided to ignore that jab and get to the business at hand. I'll take that as a yes. What is this place? Naruto asked. Your tiny human mind would be unable to grasp the nature of this place that is my prison, but a very simplified description would be a pocket dimension created with your chakra that exists within you, the Kyubi answered. A pocket dimension? Within me? Naruto dumbly echoed. True to the Kyubi's words, his young mind didn't really understand those words. It didn't matter, he could ask Jiraiya about it later. While I'm flattered that you decided to come to see me after being together for so many years, the fox's voice was oozing with sarcasm. Why are you here? Naruto gulped once again. He wanted to ask the Kyubi to let him lend its power, but he didn't know how to approach the topic. The sight of the strongest tailed beast was just too much for him, even if he was protected by the giant gates. I wanted to thank you for helping me back in the land of the rice fields, Naruto began. Maybe a little flattery would help. The Kyubi snorted. Keep your gratitude for someone who appreciates it, brat. My intentions were far from altruistic. Naruto titled his head, a bit puzzled. And why did you lend me your power back then, if you didn't want to help me? It was of my interest for you to remain safe. While there was a certain truth to that statement, it wasn't the whole truth. I helped you because my chakra will slowly erode the seal that keeps me imprisoned, and your strong emotions allow me to pump more chakra into your body, the Kyubi thought. But he obviously wasn't going to tell that to his jailer. I presume that you didn't come here just to thank me, am I right? Naruto cursed inwardly. Were his intentions so predictable? And no, since you helped me that time and you're interested in my safety, could you lend me your power in the future? It could save my life again. The Kyubi did an admirable job containing its rage and maintaining his composure. Those words had hit all the wrong buttons. Even if fulfilling that request would accelerate the tailed beast's escape, his hatred and pride, which it had plenty to spare, got the best of it. Still, it would give Naruto a piece of its mind. So, this is it, right? In the end, it always amounts to the same. My power, the Kyubi grumbled. That's all what your bastard race wants. Power. Well, you know what? Forget about it. I won't be your slave anymore. What do you mean by anymore? Naruto asked. That's none of your business, brat. Now get lost. Me get lost? You said that this place is made of my chakra, hence I own it, meaning that I decide who stays and who leaves. The Kyubi snorted and chuckled. So you prefer if it's me who leaves? That I can do. Open these gates, and you'll never see me again. Har har. You must think yourself so clever, right? Naruto placed his hands on his hips. Even if I'd love to get rid of you forever, I'm not going to let you out and kill more innocent people. None of your loathsome race is innocent, and I'm doing the world a favor by getting rid of you and your race. You're nothing but a plague upon this world. Naruto sighed in defeat. We're not getting anywhere. And you realized of that just now? Like I said before, you truly possess a privileged mind, the Kyubi snarked. Will you stop with the sarcasm? It's annoying, Naruto protested. So are you. And riling you up is the only entertainment I had in decades. So humor me here. You know, I tried to be nice, but if you're going to be an ass and not cooperate with me then I'll take your chakra by force. You what? Wahahaha. That's a good one. The Kyubi laughed uproariously. You're welcome to try any time, brat. Dad told me other Jinchuriki can do that, so I don't know why I couldn't do it myself. And then we will see who's the one laughing. But for the time being, that one will be me, the Kyubi retorted. Now leave. Naruto was about to retort, but he felt the floor below his feet disappear, leaving nothing but an empty void. Ah! Naruto screamed at the top of his lungs while he fell to his apparent death. Naruto, calm down. I'm here. The blonde opened his eyes and realized that he was back in Konoha. Jiraiya was in front of him, grabbing him by his shoulders, with a panicked expression plastered over the Sannin's face. Naruto asked, confused, as he slowly inspected his surroundings. Naruto, are you okay? A concerned Jiraiya asked. Panting a bit, Naruto managed to articulate a sentence. What happened? I was going to ask you the same. I mean, you were sitting there doing what I was asking you to. Then all of a sudden you started yelling as if you were face to face with the fox itself. Because I was face to face with the fox, Naruto replied back. Jiraiya was taken aback. What? Did you see it for a second? No, I had a whole conversation with it, Naruto said, trying to sound unironic. Wait a minute. How much time passed since I was gone? None at all, was Jiraiya's answer. How did you manage to talk with the Nine Tails in less than a second? That's the weird thing from my point of view. I was gone for quite some time. That's strange, but not impossible. We still know very little about the chakra-created artificial dimensions. Maybe time passes in a different way there, Jiraiya guessed. Like, why everything sealed inside a scroll remains the same until it's unsealed. For example, so, tell me, did you find something during your talk with the Kyubi? Jiraiya asked as he leaned forward. It's not that every day you could interact with a centuries-old demon. Yeah, that the Nine Tails is an asshole. Konoha Hospital. While Naruto had his less-than-friendly chat with his furry tenant, Hinata and Ino left the hospital after one of their lessons in medical ninjutsu with Tsunade. Thanks to the additional training they received from Shizune, Sakura and Karen progressed at a much faster pace than the rest of their classmates, and thus were moved to another class at another hour in which Tsunade taught them more advanced subjects and jutsu. And since Shino had left with the rest of his team on their first C-rank mission to Takigakure not long ago, that left only Hinata and Ino. Then again, none of them were complaining. That meant that Tsunade could focus entirely on the two of them, allowing them to progress at a faster rate, and in no point they'd be at the same level as Sakura and Karen. Or that's what Ino thought, until Hinata reminded her that Sakura and Karen also had Tsunade for themselves, plus Shizune as well. Man, this sucks. Then the gap between Forehead Girl and I will only get bigger and bigger, just like her forehead, Ino protested. That's because Sakura-san is focusing all her time and efforts into becoming a medic nin. We also have to master our clan's jutsu as well, Hinata observed. You have a point there, Ino conceded. But that doesn't make it suck any less. Just because Sakura-san surpasses us in a single field doesn't mean that she's a better kunoichi than us. Not that Hinata minded much if Sakura became a better kunoichi than her. She wasn't a competitive person. I mean, we're still better than her at both taijutsu and ninjutsu, right? Once again, you make another good point, Ino replied. Hinata cleared her throat and mentally prepared herself for her next question. She wasn't a busybody, but there was something about Ino and Sakura that got her curious, and this was a good chance to bring up the topic. Ino-san, can I ask you something? It's a bit personal. Much to Hinata's confusion, Ino's mouth formed a huge grin. So you finally decided to tell Naruto about your feelings. And of course, you want some advice from me. Okay, listen carefully. The first thing you need to do It's not that. Hinata interrupted, blushing furiously. Even she was surprised on how much she raised her voice. I meant personal about you. Ino's grin disappeared and was replaced by an expression of mild confusion. Oh, yeah, sure, what do you want to know about me? It's about you and Sakura-san. Hinata noticed Ino's mood darkening. Still, she decided to keep going. I remember back in the academy that the two of you used to be inseparable, but then you drifted apart. What happened? Despite the question, Hinata already imagined the answer, but she thought that there was more to it than her mere conjectures. The Yamanaka heiress sighed and smiled sadly at Hinata. Boy, people should be wary of you silent types. You make it look like you're not even there, but you see and listen to everything, don't you? Hinata smiled back at her. Those are the markings of a ninja, aren't they? A fair point. The third one in a row. You're on fire today, girl, Ino mentioned, chuckling, before her expression turned serious again. Yeah, forehead girl and I used to be besties, as it's usually said. She used to be bullied because of that billboard of hers she calls a forehead, and let's say that I couldn't stand it and defended her. That's how we met each other and became friends. And what happened then? Both of us had a liking to one boy, you know who I'm talking about. Naturally, we couldn't be friends and love rivals at the same time, so it was inevitable that our friendship ended. But you don't like Sasuke-san anymore, right? Exactly, Ino already guessed where Hinata was going. But Sakura still does, and that's why we can't be friends again. This isn't a matter of a love fight anymore. She can't be my friend while pursuing somebody of the same clan who murdered my father. Ino-san, don't you think you're being unfair to him? Sasuke-san might be an Uchiha, but he didn't take part in the coup. Ino looked at Hinata with her eyes wide open in disbelief. Hinata, how can you say that? I would never imagine that you, of all people, who also lost your father to the Uchiha, as well as many other clansmen, would defend Sasuke. It's that I don't think it's fair to judge him for what others did. His situation is too similar of that of Naruto-kun. What do you mean? Naruto-kun holds the Kyubi inside him, but a lot of people used to blame him for the destruction and death caused by the Kyubi. Others think he'll turn evil due to the Kyubi's influence, or that the Kyubi will escape at any time, but none of what the Kyubi did is Naruto-kun's fault. Ino averted her gaze. I know what you're trying to say, but whenever I see Sasuke, when I see his clan crest, when I see a Sharingan, I can't help but remember that horrible night and the news about Dad's death. It was the same for me too, Ino-san. Hinata placed a hand on the blonde's shoulder. And I'm not saying that you should befriend Sasuke-san, just that you shouldn't judge him unfairly. I'll try, but don't expect me to be chummy with him or anything. And now that that's out of the way, do you think that there's a chance that Sakura and you might bury the hatchet? Ino sighed. It's not that easy, Hinata. There's still a lot of bad blood between us that will take some time to overcome. If we overcome it, by the way, why are you so interested in my past friendship with Forehead Girl? This time, it was Hinata who averted her gaze, as she started to twiddle her fingers. Well, it's that. Before meeting Naruto-kun, I didn't have any friends. Not even in my clan. And if, for whatever reason, Naruto-kun and I stopped being friends, I don't know what I would do. That's why I think that what happened between you two is really sad. You and Sakura-san had a great friendship, and it would be a pity to see it go like that. I see. Boy, it's really sad when you put it like that. Still, I don't think I would be able to walk to Sakura and ask her to forget about the past 5 or so years of non-stop mutual hostility, Ino replied. Maybe Sakura-san feels the same as you do. That's a possibility, but for the time being, I'm not ready to take that step. Hinata looked at Ino and smiled. It's okay. I don't want to force you to do something that you don't want to do. Still, this little talk made me think. Ino looked at the sky, as if thinking of the future. Well, I gotta go. Asuma-sensei will be mad if I'm not on time for our daily training. It's okay. I also have some training to do as well. And next time, we will talk about something personal of your life. Despite sounding so menacing, Ino winked at Hinata. The Hyuga heiress knew all too well what the blonde girl was referring to. Takigakure. Kakashi's animal squad had taken their first C-rank mission to escort the young leader of Takigakure, Shibuki, back to his home village. So far, the journey happened without any incident. Not even bandits attacked them. and the group of 5 arrived to the minor ninja village with their client untouched. After a job well done, Kakashi was ready to go back to Konoha, but his 3 genin begged him to let them stay in the village at least a day, so they could get to know it better and maybe have the chance to meet ninja from another village, besides Shibuki. That is, it was a way to make up for the boringness of the mission. Not in the mood for arguing, Kakashi decided to indulge them this time around, seeing no harm in letting them spend one more day outside Konoha. The village of Takigakure was built around a river, surrounding a small delta on it. A massive tree grew in the middle of said delta, whose branches and leaves were so lush that they almost completely blocked the sky. Not even the giant trees of Konoha's training ground 44, the infamous Forest of Death, were so big. The surrounding trees acted like a natural barrier around the village. The only way to access it was through an underwater cave system whose entrance was behind a waterfall, hence the village's name. This made Takigakure the only one of the hidden ninja villages who was actually hidden. Then again, it took no time for the genin to regret their plea, since they found that there was almost nothing to do there. And then they regretted voicing their complaints, as Shibuki, with Kakashi's approval, assigned them a D-rank mission. Pick up trash from the water. Can somebody explain to me how we ended up doing a D-rank mission? We asked Kakashi-sensei to do this mission, so we could stop doing those menial tasks, Tamaki complained, as she picked an empty can from the river's shore. I believe that this is a hidden punishment for our behavior, first for asking him to stay here longer, and then for complaining once we got our request, Shino guessed. Ugh, another one. I wish Kakashi-sensei wasn't such a walking enigma. With all his hidden tests and underlying messages and whatnot, Kiba sourly commented. I wish that man went straight to the point just once. Kiba would never forget their true genin test, taking a couple bells from Kakashi. The whole point of the test was to use teamwork, but since there were only 2 bells, that meant that one of the genin would go back to the academy, which in his opinion discouraged teamwork. In the end, they passed when Kakashi gave them a second chance, which of course was another hidden test, to see if Tamaki and Shino would share their food with Kiba, who ended up tied to a post when he tried to steal some of Kakashi's food, even when Kakashi forbade them to do so. Well, there's a reason he wears a mask, doesn't he? I think that guy likes to keep some mystery, Tamaki added. Besides, we are ninja. As Kakashi-sensei said, we need to see underneath the underneath. We can't expect him to give us all the answers. And Shino suddenly grew silent. Shino? Is there anything wrong? Tamaki asked. Don't you hear that? Nobody said anything so they could hear whatever Shino was hearing. Soon, Kiba and Tamaki heard a buzz. It sounded like a flying insect except much louder, which meant that it was a huge insect. While Shino knew of quite a few giant insects already, all of them made a different noise when they flew. This was something Shino had never seen. The buzz is getting louder, which means it's coming in our direction. Nobody could be able to tell, given his usual stoicism, but Shino was really excited. A shadow quickly passed above them. They both looked upwards and were surprised by what they saw. It wasn't an insect, but a girl. A girl with insect-like wings protruding from her back. The flying girl paid them no mind and flew towards the giant tree in the middle of the lake. Again, nobody would be able to tell the difference, but Shino was speechless. What was that? Kiba asked. Shino? Tamaki asked, upon seeing his silent teammate staring into the direction the winged girl flew. Soon, it was obvious what was going through his head, and she knew what to do. Shino, if you want, you can go and find that girl. Kiba and I will do your part. Hey! Kiba wasn't kind to people speaking in his name, especially when it came to do additional work. Shino was snapped from his stupor. No was his response. I would be a bad teammate and ninja if I left without doing my part of the job. While it is true that I wish to know more about that girl, I don't want to do it at your expense. What? Shino interested in a girl? That's new. Kiba smirked at the Aburame. If that's the case, I'm with Tamaki. Besides, we've been working for a couple hours and picked up most of the garbage. We can finish this without you. I see. Thank you then. I won't forget this, Shino said before leaving. Konoha Training Ground 10. Team Asuma was resting under the shade of a tree after an intense training session with Asuma, which soon would resume. Choji was eating chips as usual, while Shikamaru looked at the clouds, and Ino filed her nails. Then, she suddenly perked up. Ino? Choji asked. My gossip senses are tingling, Ino stated. It feels almost like a boy we know developed a crush on a girl he just met. You can sense people's relationships? Shikamaru asked in disbelief. Troublesome. Scary is the word I'd use, Choji added, sharing his lazy teammates' disbelief. Back in Takigakure. It took very little time for the Aburame's Kikai bugs to track the mysterious flying girl, who was now happily sitting on one of the tree's extremely large branches, doing nothing in particular. Shino studied the girl before approaching her. She was his age, more or less. She had mint green hair, tan skin, and orange eyes. She was wearing a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. She was wearing a Takigakure headband tied to her right arm, in a similar fashion to Shikamaru, which meant that she was one of the village's ninja. She was also carrying a red, cylindrical backpack. After some internal debate, Shino decided to make his presence known to the girl. Hello, the Aburame laconically said as he walked towards her. The green-haired girl was a bit startled. Then she looked at the approaching Konoha ninja and smiled. Oh, you aren't from here, are you? I don't remember seeing you before. Your assumption is correct. My name is Shino Aburame, and I'm from Konoha. My team came here while escorting the leader of this village. In less than a second, the girl was now standing up in front of him with her hands stretched. My name is Fu, and I'm from Taki, but you probably guessed that already, he. Shino shook her hand and noticed that for having such a petite frame, the girl was rather strong. Nice to meet you, Fu. By the way, not to be rude or anything, but this is my secret spot. How did you find it? The green-haired girl asked. I saw you flying towards this place and followed suit, Shino explained. So, you saw a pretty girl and decided to follow her like that? My, what a stalker you are, Fu joked as she punched him in the shoulder. I don't do that with every girl I see, Shino replied, a bit defensively. Oh, so there was something special about me that caught your attention? Fu asked, smiling at him. Care to tell me what it is? It's your wings. And excuse me if I'm being too blunt, but could you show them to me? Oh, don't worry, it's okay. Look. Fu turned around, and two long, insect-like green and orange wings sprouted from her hips, surprising Shino a bit. So, what do you think? Fu playfully asked while fluttering her wings a bit. You can touch them if you want. I prefer not, Shino awkwardly answered as he tried his hardest not to blush. How did you get those wings?
Fuese wings disappeared.
The girl suddenly lost all her cheerful attitude, grew a bit somber, and started rubbing her arm. I'd love to tell you, but Shibuki told me not to tell anybody out of the village about my wings, sorry. I see. Shino adjusted his shades. Can you tell me at least if it's something anybody can learn? Maybe I can learn to do that on my own.
Fu chuckled.
I don't think so, Shino. Let's say it's an unique ability of mine. So it's a bloodline limit. I understand then your leader's reservation about sharing those secrets with me. My apologies for asking. Fu started to smile again all of a sudden. It's okay. You're the first one who showed any interest in my wings, which is kind of nice. Fu's cheerfulness was back in full force as well. I have an idea. I can give you a ride if you want. You don't appreciate how pretty Takigakure is unless you see it from a bird's eye view. No, it's okay. I prefer if HEY. Before Shino could react, he found himself high in the air, with Fu's surprisingly strong arms grabbing him by his armpits. I know a lot of people are a bit afraid the first time they fly, but trust me, you're going to enjoy this. Fu assurde. Shino was too terrified to protest or even scream. Training Ground 8. Wind Release, Cyclone Shockwave. A tornado formed around Naruto in a similar way to the Wind Release, Wind Wall, except that it also violently expanded outwards. Good job, Naruto, Kurenai praised. Keep working, and you'll increase the radius of effect with each try. The Jonin then turned at Hinata, who nodded and made several hand seals. Lightning Release, Thunderbolt. Hinata released a myriad of lightning bolt branches from her fingertips, hitting the ground, setting the grass on fire while scorching some land. Nice one, Hinata. See? Now you have another ranged attack in case you're unable to reach an enemy in close combat, Kurenai stated. Hinata merely nodded. Kurenai looked at the last of her genin, Haku. The ice release user nodded and made several hand seals. Demonic Illusion. Ice Prison. Kurenai allowed the genjutsu to affect her, and she found herself suddenly trapped inside a block of ice that simply left her head exposed. The genjutsu only lasted a few seconds before Haku himself dispelled it. So, how was it? The execution was almost flawless, but I can't help but wonder why you modified the original jutsu. Kurenai had taught Haku the tree-binding death, one of her most used genjutsu. Besides ice fitting me better, I believe it was a good way to confuse my enemies. Since I use ice jutsu, my enemies wouldn't be able to differentiate which ones are real and which ones are illusions. Kurenai nodded and smiled. Interesting reasoning, Haku. I applaud your inventiveness. Haku smiled back at her. I'm very glad to see how fast the three of you are progressing. I had my reservations at first, but now I believe that you're ready. Are ready for what, Kurenai-sensei? Hinata asked. A dangerous mission? Please let it be a dangerous mission, Naruto excitedly shouted. Kurenai just shook her head and chuckled. Despite that close call with Orochimaru, Naruto still wanted more missions like that. Then again, Naruto didn't have to fight Orochimaru. That honor fell upon her and her friend's shoulders. Actually, better than that, Naruto. The Chunin exams are in less than 2 weeks, and if you pass them, you will be promoted to Chunin, the raven-haired sensei explained. Whoa, that's even better. That's what I said. Though in the end, the ultimate decision is yours. Kurenai looked at them. But you don't look like you want to miss this, am I right? Does that mean that our other classmates will be taking the exam as well? Hinata asked. Kurenai shrugged. That depends on their senseis as well as themselves. If a Jonin sensei doesn't feel like their genin are ready, then he or she can ban them from taking the exam. And just like I told you, the genin themselves must feel that they're ready or at least willing to take the exam. As for myself, I'll recommend you when Hokage-sama calls for the meeting. Nighttime Senju residence. It was a rare sight to see all 6 members of Naruto's adoptive family to have dinner at the same time. Given that Jiraiya and Tsunade were often missing due their duties as Hokage and chief medic of the Konoha Hospital, respectively, but today wasn't one of those days, which was perfect for Naruto, who wanted to announce his participation in the exams. Hey, Dad, Kurenai-sensei said that the Chunin exams are going to be soon, right? Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, this time they will be held here, meaning that it's my responsibility to ensure that they go on without a hitch. Tsunade cleared her throat. Did Kurenai mention if she was going to recommend you? You can bet she did. Man, I can't wait for the exams to arrive, and I get to show people how strong I got since the academy, Naruto boasted. You graduated the academy 3 months ago. Don't be in over your head. Those exams are nothing compared to the ones you take in the academy. People actually die there, Tsunade sternly replied. Well, I have an S-rank mission under my belt, so I think I can handle it. Upon seeing Tsunade's scowl, Naruto added, but yeah, I'll be careful, Mom. I won't give you a reason to worry. Tsunade's scowl disappeared and was replaced by a content smile. Then she realized of something and turned to her apprentice. Shizun, what about your team? Are you going to recommend them? The black-haired woman nodded. The three of them are rather strong, and their teamwork has improved a lot since the time I became their sensei. Sakura and Karen don't bicker as much as they used to. Would you say that Sasuke is stronger than me? Naruto asked. Shizun looked at him and smiled. Well, it's hard to tell. Both of you are really strong, so I couldn't say unless I saw you fight against each other. That has an easy solution then. Tomorrow I'll challenge Sasuke to a fight. Jiraiya just shook his head. Naruto, you should stop obsessing about beating Sasuke. A rivalry can be a good motivator to improve oneself, but it shouldn't be the only one. Tsunade dryly laughed. Look who's talking. You were obsessed with beating both Orochimaru and I as long as we were teammates. Jiraiya shot Tsunade an unamused look. That was completely different. It was a matter of principle. Besides, in the end, I surpassed both of you. Tsunade dropped her fork and looked at Jiraiya incredulously. Excuse me? When did that happen? I've always been, and still am, way stronger than you. Shizun was sweating bullets as her eyes drifted back and forth between Tsunade and Jiraiya. She didn't like where this was going. If the two of them decided to fight, the house wouldn't survive. Do you want to put your money where your mouth is? Jiraiya challenged. Tsunade merely chuckled and continued eating. I'd love to, but I don't want to humiliate you in front of the kids, so let's leave this for another moment. Okay? We were having a nice dinner. Jiraiya decided not to press the issue further, but this in turn raised another question. He looked at his godson. Naruto, why are you so determined to beat Sasuke? Is it because he was the strongest of your classmates? Yeah, but it's not just that, Naruto began. It's the way he acted. All cool and hip, with that "you're all beneath me" attitude. Well, Sasuke is a complicated kid. I don't think he means any harm. It's just his way to cope, Shizun interceded. It's obvious that losing most of his clan during the Uchiha insurrection affected him deeply, and the way some people treat him for being an Uchiha doesn't help matters. But we're working on that. He simply needs a positive influence in his life. Well, Hinata lost her dad that night too, and she doesn't act like Sasuke. Naruto protested, crossing his arms. Naruto-kun, everyone has a different way to cope with loss and tragedy, and it's unfair to expect everybody to react the same way to such events, Shizun countered. At least it wouldn't be so bad if all the girls didn't act like he's the most interesting guy in the world. Tsunade leaned forward and smiled mischievously. Oh, so that's what this is about? Is there a girl you like who has a crush on Sasuke? Naruto almost choked on his food. What? Of course not. Naruto then turned a bit red and averted his gaze. But it would be nice to be as popular with the girls as Sasuke is. I mean, almost every girl worships the ground he walks on, and he hardly cares. Naruto and Ai-san, what about Hinata-chan? She's really cute, Kaida piped in. Yeah, and she doesn't drool over Sasuke, Hagane added. What? Naruto barked in shock, blushing furiously. But Hinata's my friend. Oh, look at him, getting all red, Tsunade teasingly said. The twins started to sing. Naruto and Hinata, sitting on a tree. KIS-. As much as Jiraiya wanted to join in the fun, he decided to cut Naruto some slack. Let's change the topic, okay? We're making the kid feel uncomfortable. I know that girls are a delicate issue, especially given the age you're in. What's wrong with my age? Nothing, but you and I will have an important talk soon. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. Jiraiya smiled impishly. Naruto just raised an eyebrow. Taki next morning. Kakashi's animal squad was ready to return to Konoha. The copy ninja had to admit that, in hindsight, it was a good thing that they decided to stay. Turns out that a Taki renegade jonin named Suein, helped by several aim-missing nin, were about to steal the village's famous hero water, an elixir that dramatically increases the power of those who drank it, albeit with a potentially fatal cost. Kiba, Shino, and Tamaki managed to stop Suein's minions from kidnapping several civilians to use as hostages in exchange of the hero water, while Kakashi and Shibuki dealt with Suein himself. The Taki missing nin fell under the power of Kakashi's lightning blade. "Thank you, all of you. You helped my village far more than what I had asked of from you," Shibuki said as he shook Kakashi's hand. "And no need to thank us. We were in the right place at the right time," Kakashi replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "Besides, there's no way a single, unimposing man, as Suein with a bunch of followers would be able to threaten a whole ninja village." While Kakashi and Shibuki talked, Fu was saying goodbye to the Konoha Genin. "It's a pity you guys have to leave so soon. I'd love to get to know you better," Fu said, pouting a bit. "Shibuki doesn't let me out of the village since it's dangerous, and there are almost no kids my age here. This village is small, you know." "It's okay, you can always write," Tamaki suggested. "Or we can just come to pay you a visit. Taki isn't that far away from Konoha," Kiba added. "Like my friends and teammates said, we will do our best to keep contact," Shino finished. Fu then pulled the three of them into a bone-crushing hug. "Ah, you guys are awesome," the green-haired girl cooed. Then, she whispered into Shino's ear. "Though, we might see each other sooner than you think, he." Konoha Hokage's office. Jiraiya was at his office. This time it was really him, not a clone, doing the usual paperwork when somebody entered the room. Turned out it was Sarutobi. He looked mildly worried, as he was holding a small scroll in his hand. He stopped what he was doing and nodded his former sensei to speak. "Jiraiya, we got a message," Sarutobi began. "From Kumo." The Sannin's curiosity spiked. He hasn't heard from that village ever since the Hyuga affair 9 years ago. He wondered what they wanted this time. "What is it, sensei?" "It's about the Chunin exams. Kumo is going to send several teams to undertake the exam here." It was just 2 days before the beginning of the Chunin exams, and most of the Konoha Genin that wanted to participate had increased their training regime during these past 2 weeks in order to be in top form for the exams. While far from the norm, people sometimes died in these kind of exams. None of the Genin who participated took missions anymore so they could spend their time preparing the exams. And given that what most Genin teams did were D-rank missions, it was something pretty much everybody, included their Jonin sensei, were grateful for getting rid of, at least temporarily. After an intense training session that morning, Team Kurenai was at Ikaraku's having lunch. And after lunch, they'll go back to training once again. While they waited for their orders, Naruto spoke up. "So, Kurenai-sensei, be honest. Do you think we're ready for the exam?" the blonde Jinchuriki asked. "Like I said before, if I didn't think you are, I wouldn't have recommended you for the exams. You three seem to progress at a very good pace. What's with the sudden self-doubt, Naruto? Are you having second thoughts?" Kurenai teased, knowing full well the answer. Naruto took immediate offense. "Of course not. It's that, well, I'm a bit nervous. Mom and Dad explained the exams to me and it's kind of a big deal." "Speaking of which, how was your Chunin exams in your day, Kurenai-sensei?" Haku asked. "Did you pass on your first try?" "Second," Kurenai answered. "And I don't mean to sound defeatist or anything, but don't be disheartened if you don't become Chunin the first time you take the exams. Very few people do." "How old were you?" Hinata asked. "When I participated the first time, or when I got promoted?" Kurenai asked back before deciding to answer those two questions at once. 12 and 13, respectively. "So our age more or less," Naruto said, a bit more encouraged now. "And what about Jonin? Is there a Jonin exam?" "You're going too fast, aren't you, Naruto?" Kurenai asked. First get promoted to Chunin, and then we'll talk about becoming a Jonin. Ah, come on, why don't you tell us? After pondering it for a few seconds, Kurenai decided that there was no harm in letting them know. Usually, Jonin are required to master at least 2 kind of elemental ninjutsu, have above-average taijutsu, and some skill in jinjutsu. But like I told you, there are exceptions to that, Kurenai explained. Hinata knew that most Hyuga Jonin fell under those exceptions, since she never saw her mother nor her late father using elemental ninjutsu. But then again, their taijutsu and overall power was simply spectacular. That seems like a lot of things, Hinata observed. Well, of course, it's not a matter of just being strong. Jonin are the best a village can offer, so the standards are pretty high, Kurenai said. There's also the special Jonin rank, which is given to Chunin who excel at 1 or 2 fields, but they haven't mastered enough skills to be considered a full Jonin. More than likely, you will have to go through that rank before becoming a Jonin, just like I had to. And your specialty was Genjutsu, am I right? Haku ventured to guess. Kurenai smiled at him. It wasn't very hard to guess, right? Your orders are ready. I am, Tuchi's daughter announced, as she placed all the bowls in front of her customers, much to the delight of a certain blonde. After eating, and having some more small talk, Kurenai decided that it was about time to continue training. She was planning to give them the next day off so they could relax and rest, so they had to make the best of the hours of light left. However, when Naruto exited Ikaraku, he accidentally bumped into somebody. Oops, sorry, the blonde said. Watch where you're going, you moron. Hey, wait a minute, Naruto? The person Naruto bumped into asked. Naruto eyed the stranger, a boy maybe a year or 2 older than him, wearing a black, baggy, full-body suit with a red and yellow circle on the front. He also wore a black hood which covered his head completely, and had cat-like ears and his Suna forehead protector on his forehead. He was also wearing purple face paint. Excuse me? Naruto asked as he scratched the back of his head. Have we met before? Oh, come on. I know that it has been a few years, but I didn't expect you to forget about me so soon, the stranger insisted. Of course he doesn't remember you with the sinister hood and all that makeup, a female voice said behind him, a voice that Naruto vaguely recognized. A girl appeared behind the cloaked boy. Said girl was tall, with spiky blonde hair styled in 4 pigtails. She was wearing a single light purple-colored, off-the-shoulders garment that extended to halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. In addition to incorporating fishnet worn over her shoulders and legs, specifically on her right calf and her left thigh, she also wore her black Suna forehead protector around her neck. Tamari, Naruto asked. Right on the spot, the Suna Kunoichi replied with a tender smile. Whoa, look at you. You're so tall, Naruto said in amazement. Tamari just shrugged. I just eat my greens. Wait a minute if you're here. Naruto then turned towards the hooded stranger. And you definitely are not Gaara. Then you're Kankuro? Kankuro groaned and rolled his eyes. I can't believe that you only recognized me by process of elimination. What did you expect with all that makeup? The puppeteer looked even more annoyed. This isn't makeup. It's war paint. Makeup is what girls use to look prettier. War paint is used by men to strike fear in the heart of their enemies. Well, you don't look that fearsome to me, an unimpressed Naruto replied. Because you know that what it is needed to make your enemies afraid of you is not face paint, but strength and skill. A third, monotonous voice said, as a red-headed kid with blue eyes appeared in Naruto's field vision. Naruto's beamed upon seeing his fellow Jinchuriki. Gaara! Naruto pulled the redhead into a bone-crushing bear hug. Of course, if your siblings are here, you would be here too. By the way, Naruto was interrupted by somebody clearing her throat behind him. He turned around to see Hinata, Haku, and Kurenai awkwardly standing behind him. Naruto, aren't you going to introduce us to your friends? Kurenai asked as polite as possible. She had guessed that those Suna kids were old acquaintances of Naruto and decided to give him some time to talk, but now it appeared as if Naruto forgot about his team. Oh, right. Sorry. My bad, the blonde sheepishly said. These are my teammates Haku and Hinata and Kurenai-sensei, our instructor. Guys, these are Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. I befriended them on a trip to Suna with my dad a few years ago. They all exchanged greetings. So let me guess. You three are here for the Chunin exams, right? Kurenai asked. That's correct, miss, Temari replied. So that means that we may fight each other, Naruto said in realization. They won't be the only ones. Remember that all our former classmates participate in the exams as well, Haku reminded the blonde. Yes, the world of the ninja is cruel and full of lies and deception. Sometimes you might end up fighting somebody you considered a friend because he or she is at the wrong side of a conflict, Kurenai added. But then again, there are lots of genin from many villages participating. The odds of fighting somebody you know are pretty low. While I bear no ill towards any of you, I actually seek to fight you in the exams, Gaara spoke up. Thanks to your father, I learned to control my powers better, and I became much stronger as a result. I'm sure that you got stronger too, Naruto, and I want to measure which one of us is the strongest. Naruto merely smiled. Sure, though if we don't end up fighting in the exams, we can always spar before you leave. Either case, I'll be looking forward it. It was nice to meet you again, Naruto, as well as your teammates and sensei, but we need to go to the hotel and unpack our stuff, Temari mentioned. Alright, we have to go back to our training too. I hope you like Konoha, Naruto said as he waved the Sand siblings goodbye. Once they were out of sight, Kurenai walked towards Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto, do you have any idea who those kids are? Naruto looked at her and smiled. Yeah, the Kazekage's kids. I never met them, but I knew who they were by their names. To think that you were talking to them like they were old friends. But then again, Kurenai guessed that Naruto did befriend them to some degree. Not every genin has such friends in high places, Naruto. Now it goes both ways, since my dad is the Hokage, the blonde pointed out. True. Konoha's North Gate. For ninja wearing Kumo forehead protectors approached the entrance to the village. The group was composed by an adult man with dark skin and blonde hair, who wore shades and a white scarf. He was leading 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, none of them older than 13. One of the girls had dark skin, red hair and golden eyes, while the other had light skin and long, blonde hair, styled in 2 long braids. The male kid also had dark skin, blonde hair and dark eyes, and he was chewing on a lollipop. The white female glanced at her red-headed teammate. Karui, you look a bit tense. Anything wrong? What's not wrong would be a better question, T. The redhead Karui answered. We're Kumo ninja going to Konoha. I'm sure that you remember what happened between our villages 9 years ago. Yeah, what if we're apprehended and sent to jail when we set foot there, and we need to dig a tunnel to escape? But since we don't have any tools, we need to use our hands, but our hands fall off due to how much dash. Can it? Oh moi. T harshly cut him. None of that is going to happen. Reikage-sama already sent a message in advance, and we got permission to enter Konoha. Still, I can't believe that Reikage-sama allowed you to come here with no other company than 3 genin sensei, Karui said to the only adult in the group. She wasn't the only one who wondered what kind of witchcraft her sensei used on the Reikage to allow such a thing. Killer B was in need of relaxation. That's why he asked his bro for a vacation. And I thought it would be a good experience for you to fight in these exams and meet somebody new. Oh yeah, Killer B replied while waving his hands rhythmically. Other people would have been deeply perplexed by Killer Bee's antics, but his students were all used to him and his quirks. Turns out it was Killer Bee's idea to take his team to the exams. At first, the Reikage forbade it, since Kumo and Konoha weren't allied villages. But the three genin guessed that Killer Bee bothered his brother so much until he finally relented. Some of the Reikage's counselors supported Bee's idea, since it would be a good way to mend their strained relationship with Konoha. "Look, we're almost there," Omoi pointed to the gates of Konoha, already in sight. When they were about to enter, they were stopped by two Chunin at the entrance. "Halt!" One of the Chunin, who was wearing a bandage over his nose, shouted. "Who are you and what business do you have in Konoha?" Killer Bee took a step forward. "My name is Killer Bee. I'm from Kumo, as you can see. To the Chunin exams we came to show off and gain some fame. Everybody else may as well scram, since my genin are gonna rock the exams." Both Chunin's sweat dropped as they glanced at each other awkwardly. "What our sensei is trying to say is that we came here to participate in the Chunin exams. I'm sure you were notified that we were coming." Karui interceded before things got even weirder. "Yeah, sure. Let me check it," the other Chunin replied, who was wearing a bandana and had an eye covered by long bangs. After looking through a list, he saw that they were indeed expecting a team from Kumo to arrive. He wondered if the Hokage made the right call by allowing them to participate. "Okay, it seems that you were saying the truth. All what we need is your passports to verify that you're who you say you are." The three genin immediately pulled out their passports and handed them to the guards, who quickly verified them. However, when it came to Killer Bee, they found there was a problem. Sir, this isn't a passport. It's just a picture of you," the Konoha Chunin said while looking at the picture, which was Killer Bee doing some rapper pose. "It's a signed picture, fool ya fool. My fans would kill to have something so cool." Killer Bee protested. His three genin sweat dropped. "While I appreciate the intention, I'm afraid that if you don't have a passport, you won't be allowed to enter." Killer Bee grumbled something inaudible as he started to fish through his pockets until he finally found his passport. The picture on the passport was the same as the one he handed to the guard. Still, it was valid. "Everything is in order. You can go into the village. But your permission to stay lasts as long as the exams themselves. Once they're over, you'll have to leave," the Chunin of the bandaged nose informed them. "If you want to prolong your stay, you should talk with the Hokage." After thanking the guards, Team Killer Bee entered Konoha. Naturally, a bunch of ninja with Kumo forehead protectors wasn't something people of Konoha, both ninja and civilians, saw every day, and thus they soon found themselves as the center of quite a lot of curious looks, and more than one hateful glare from ninja old enough to remember the previous wars. "Boy, I'm feeling uncomfortable," T whined as she got closer to Karui. "Come on. We can't let these people intimidate us," Karui protested. "It's not as easy. Remember that we're pretty much in enemy territory, all alone," Omoi observed. Killer Bee realized that he needed to do something about that. "You guys are ninja. For Kami's sake, you can't let a few stares to make you shake. If that's what takes for you to bail, then you'll look like somebody weak and frail." Omoi and T lowered their heads in shame. Killer Bee was right. Not only were they ninja, they pretty much represented their village to the rest of the world right now. They couldn't leave Kumogakure in a bad place. "Besides, we aren't the only foreigners here. I've seen a couple teams with Amigakure forehead protectors," Karui observed. "And I'm sure that we'll see even more people from outside Konoha." Between that and their sensei's reprimand, Omoi and T regained some composure. Karui hoped that they wouldn't break down again, or else they wouldn't make it far into the exams, which would mean being the target of the Reikage's wrath. Downtown Konoha inside a cafe. "Look at him. How dare he show his face and that emblem in public like that? I can't believe the Hokage goes so far to protect them. I wouldn't be surprised if they backstabbed him," Aren't those girls worried for their lives? Hell, their sensei is dating one of them. Can you believe that? Sasuke Shizen's voice snapped the Uchiha from his trance. Don't let them get to you. Ignore them. I know, sensei, but it's not that easy, the only boy of her squad replied. I know what you are talking about, Shizune continued. I'm dating Shursui, you know. Whenever we go, we always have to deal with people glaring at us, treating us poorly and murmuring things behind our backs when they think we can't hear them. Yeah. You also have me to support you? Sasuke-kun, Sakura interceded, as she not so subtly grabbed Sasuke's hand. And me too, Karen quickly added, while shooting a murderous glare at Sakura and grabbing Sasuke's other hand. The Uchiha boy merely sighed. Well, girls and boy, the Chunin exams will be in less than 2 days. How do you feel? Shizune asked. Ready to kick ass, Shizune-sensei. We'll show everybody the might of the medical squad, Sakura cheerfully replied. By the way, given that Shursui will be one of the proctors, can you tell us what are we going to face, Shizune-sensei? Karen asked. Sorry, Karen, but as you can imagine, Shursui isn't allowed to talk with anyone about the details of the exam, and much less me, given that you're going to take part on it, Shizune replied with an apologetic smile. So he's your boyfriend, but you can't get anything out of him. Lame, Karen said as she crossed her arms. Shizune sighed. Well, if this exam is going to be like previous editions, I can tell you that it will consist on 3 parts. The first one will be a test to your overall capabilities, the second part will be a survival exercise, and the last one will be a one-on-one fighting tournament. But then again, this exam could be different to the previous ones. Still, that'll be better than anything, Sakura said. I did try to ask my brother about his exam, but he told me that I needed to take it completely blind, just like he did, Sasuke mentioned, crossing his arms as well. Hey, this is like real life itself. As ninja, sometimes you will find yourselves amidst situations that you know nothing about. This exam will test your resourcefulness, among other things, Shizune explained. At the very least, we know that the other teams won't have any advantage over us, Karen reasoned. Actually, that's only true for teams who will take the exam for the first time, Sakura interceded. Other teams had taken the exam multiple times already, which means that not only do they have an edge over us, but they're older and thus they have more experience than us. I don't think so. If they need so many tries to become Chunin, then they can't be that strong, Sasuke retorted. Shizune frowned at Sasuke's overconfident attitude. Sasuke, underestimating your enemies is not something wise to do. Approach every fight as if you were going to face the strongest enemy possible. Otherwise, something far worse than merely failing awaits you. We'll see about that. Outside the Hokage Tower, first day of the Chunin exams. All the genin teams that took part in the exams were told to wait outside the Hokage Tower at 10 in the morning sharp. Those who were already there noticed that there was a large podium in front of the tower. Many teams decided to be there at least half an hour in advance, just to be safe. Team Kurenai thought that they would be among the first teams to arrive, but they found out that another team had beat them to it. Hey, Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, Naruto shouted as he waved at them. Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Shikamaru asked. Nice to see you guys, Choji greeted as he ate from his ever-present bag of chips. Why did you say my name last? Ino angrily asked. Ignoring Ino's outburst, Naruto asked, So, you ready for the exams? Shikamaru just shrugged. No, but these two can't take the exam on their own, so I guess I'll have to pull my part. You better. There's no way we can do worse than Forehead Girl's team, Ino stated. With how much Asuma-sensei worked us out, I'm sure we will, Choji commented. Ah, Keep dreaming, Ino, a new female voice said. Everybody turned around to see Sakura, Karen, and Sasuke walking towards them. Sakura, Ino mentioned with false joy. I'm glad that you decided not to run away. I want to beat you with my skills myself. Like I just said, Ino, you'd wish I quit. Not when I have Sasuke-kun at my side, Sakura proudly declared. Upon noticing Karen's murderous glare, she added, Oh yeah, and Karen too. Oh, of course. With that Ino interrupted herself when she noticed the pleading look Hinata was shooting at her. For some reason, she just couldn't continue with whatever hurtful comment she was going to say about the Uchiha. She simply cleared her throat, and much to everybody's surprise, she said, Yes, Sasuke looks strong, as so do you and Karen. I will be looking forward to fighting you in the exams. Sakura, and to a lesser extent Karen, were taken aback by Ino's sudden bout of politeness. Sasuke was a bit surprised too, though he was better at hiding his reaction than his female teammates. The more observant people there like Shikamaru and Haku noticed the way Hinata was looking at Ino, and deduced that the Hyuga heiress had something to do with it. I do look forward fighting you too, Sasuke, Naruto proudly declared. I hope that you have been training hard, otherwise my victory over you wouldn't be as meaningful. We fought plenty of times back in the academy, and you were never close to defeating me, Sasuke cockily replied. Then he smirked at him. But then again, you were the only one back then who could be considered a challenge, so I will look forward to fighting you as well. And I will look forward to fighting and beating you both, a new voice said. Naruto and Sasuke turned to the voice's direction and saw a boy with black hair styled in a bowl haircut, with very thick eyebrows, who was wearing a green jumpsuit and orange leg warmers. Who are you? Naruto asked to this would-be rival. YOSH. My name is Rock Lee. While I can't use ninjutsu nor jinjutsu, I will prove the world that I can be a powerful ninja using nothing but taijutsu. And what better way to achieve my goal than by beating Naruto, the son of the Sannin, and Sasuke, the Uchiha genius. So, who wants to go first? Rock Lee enthusiastically slipped into a fighting stance. Before any fight could happen, somebody smacked Lee in the back of his head. Lee, do you want to get us disqualified before even starting the exam? We can't fight right now, a girl with brown hair styled in two buns said in a chastising tone. Sorry, Tenten, but seeing these two ninja, considered the strongest of our generation, makes my blood boil with excitement. My youth can't be contained. Everybody's sweat dropped at the overly theatrical display of the green-clad genin. Is he always like that? Shikamaru asked. Actually, today he seems unusually relaxed. The girl, Tenten, replied with an apologetic smile. Tisk, troublesome. As if we didn't have enough with one hyperactive nutcase. Shikamaru deadpanned. Then he looked at Naruto. No offense. Huh? No offense for what? Naruto dumbly asked. Anyway, it's a pleasure to meet all of you, Lee continued. As long as our third teammate arrives, the youth squad will be complete. Tenten frowned. Lee, regardless of what you and Gai-sensei insist, that's not the name of our team. Come on, Tenten. I'm sure you'll admit that Youth Squad is a much better name and defines our team better than the official close combat squad. Besides, that name leaves you out, Lee countered. Excuse me, Hinata asked both Lee and Tenten. Is your third teammate by chance Niji Hyuga? Yes, Tenten replied. How do you know? I'm Niji Nizen's cousin. He sometimes talks about you too. By the way, my name is Hinata Hyuga. Pleased to meet you, Hinata greeted, while bowing slightly. Likewise, and no need to be so formal, Hinata, Tenten chuckled. Hinata-sama can't help being formal. It's part of her nature. A voice that both girls instantly recognized said. Niji, Tenten said to her last teammate. Sorry for staying behind. I didn't want to be part of Lee's antics. Though then again, it was inevitable for him to explode when he saw Naruto and Sasuke. Niji replied. Well, at least Lee is no longer challenging Naruto-kun and Sasuke-san. Hinata saw that Naruto and Sasuke were discussing something between themselves. Nope, but he found somebody else to challenge. Tenten chuckled and pointed at Lee, who was in front of Sakura. My name is Rock Lee. Please go out on a date with me. Oh, beautiful Sakura. I will protect you with my life, the green-clad ninja loudly declared. Sakura's brain was still trying to process the situation going on, while Karen was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Sorry, Lee, but I don't know you that much to go on a date with you, the pinkette awkwardly replied. It doesn't matter. I will keep working hard until I'm worthy of your affections. Sakura-san. Come on, Sakura, say yes. This guy is an amazing catch. Karen placed a hand on Sakura's shoulder, still laughing. You only say that so can have Sasuke-kun for yourself. Forget about it, Sakura retorted. Well, Sasuke-kun is clearly out of your league, so why don't give this nice boy a chance? Why don't you give him a chance if he's such a catch? Because it's you whom he has a crush on, and I'd hate to get in the way of true love, Karen mocked. While Sakura and Karen continued arguing, the last of the teams formed by Naruto's former classmates joined the group. Oh geez, we're the last ones to arrive, Kiba mentioned a bit dejected, looking at the group. Yup, it seems that Kakashi-sensei's habits are starting to rub off on us, Tamaki agreed. She then noticed Sasuke and smiled.
Oh, hey, Sasuke-kun.
Ready to rock the exams. HN, was the Uchiha's response. Keep your attitude as long as you can, Uchiha. Nothing will save you from a well-deserved ass-kicking when our paths cross, Kiba declared, with Akamaru happily barking in agreement. Kiba, just like in the academy, you're all bark and no bite. But if only for the chance to shut your annoying mouth already, I'll be more than happy to oblige. The third member of the animal squad decided to intervene. Thinking on what could be is pointless. We're better off if we focus on the matter at hand. I know that we won't be fighting each other on this portion of the exam. Save your energy for when we are required to fight. HMPF, Kiba grunted, clearly in disagreement. He's right, you know, Tamaki said. Of course you'd side with him, if that would mean siding against me, Kiba scoffed. Tamaki frowned at the Inuzuka. Listen here, you mutt. My life doesn't revolve around you. I take most of my decisions without having you in my mind. That's a very poor attitude when working as a team, Kiba fired back. That's why I said most, not all, Tamaki clarified. Shino, a chirpy but very loud female voice shouted from above. Suddenly, a green and white blur fell from the sky like a meteor, landing in the middle of the animal squad. Everybody realized that said object wasn't a meteor, but a girl. A Takigakure kunoichi that the animal squad, and especially Shino, knew all too well. Hey you guys, I'm so glad I found you. Now we can talk a bit before the exams begin, the girl excitedly said. Hello to you as well, Fu, Shino replied, unaffected by the girl's landing. So these are all your friends? I didn't know that you had so many. Shino, by the way, aren't you going to introduce me? The girl said as she wrapped an arm around Shino's neck, making the usually stoic Aburame blush a little. Yes, Shino. We're all dying to know who is this girl that's so interested in you. Ino interjected, her gossip senses going into overdrive. My name is Fu. I'm from Takigakure, and I'm here to become a better kunoichi and make lots of friends. Not in that order necessarily. Fu then smirked and got uncomfortably close to Shino. By the way, my offer of letting you touch them still stands. Oh, Shino, you devil. Who would have thought that behind that quiet facade, there was such a charmer? Ino chimed in. It's not what you are thinking, Shino stuttered. In case you're wondering, we met Fu on a mission to Takigakure a week ago, Tamaki explained, also hoping to deflect the focus from poor Shino. By the way, Fu, you need a team of 3 people to participate. Where are your teammates? I'm sure they're close, Fu replied, not worrying much about her missing teammates. Anyway, I see that you guys have lots of friends. Why don't you introduce Dash? Fu became silent the moment her eyes landed on Naruto. There was something about him that made him special. It was almost like seeing a long-lost family member. You, she stated, her voice devoid of all her previous cheerfulness. Me, Naruto dumbly replied. You? There's something about you that, Fu slowly said as she walked towards the blonde. Fu. The mint-haired girl was snapped from her trance and turned around to see 2 men with Takigakure forehead protectors running at them. There you are, one of the Takigakure ninja shouted. He was a man with short, brown curly hair, who wore a violet jacket, with the inside being green, black top, with his midriff being exposed, and dark pants. What the hell are you thinking, going on your own in a foreign village? The other one added. He was a slightly taller man with short, spiky hair who wore a dark violet vest, with 2 scrolls attached to it, a light violet turtleneck, and dark green-colored pants. Oh, come on, guys. I only wanted to see Shino and his friends again. Fu pouted. Fu, you promised Shibuki-sama that you'd be cautious. He'd be really worried if something happened to you, the man with the curly brown hair chastised. I know, sorry. Fu lowered her head. She then turned her head at the Konoha genin. I better get going. It was nice to meet you guys. Hopefully we can see each other again later. We'd like that as well, Tamaki replied as she saw Fu leaving with her team. Everybody noticed something about Fu's teammates. The first thing was that the one with the curly brown hair really liked to show off his abs. The second, and only a bit less obvious, was that they were about twice as old as Fu. Akamaru whined something to Kiba. Guys, Akamaru told me that those guys' chakra levels are way above the average for genin. We should be careful around them, Kiba warned. Those who heard him nodded. Attention everybody. The first exam is about to begin, somebody shouted. All the genin present turned their sights to the podium, where a black-haired ninja with one eye appeared out of nowhere. Hello everybody and welcome to the Chunin exams. My name is Shursui Uchiha, and I will be the proctor of the first exam. Ino rolled her eyes. An Uchiha, just my luck. First of all, if there's a team inscribed but is not present here, said team is automatically disqualified. With that out of the way, I'll start explaining the rules. Shursui snapped his fingers, and many ninja who were previously on the roof of the Hokage Tower jumped down and landed between the group of genin and the podium. They were wearing the standard Konoha ninja uniform, except the flak jacket was bright yellow instead of grass green. These ninjas have a scroll hidden within their person. Your task will be capture at least one of them and retrieve the scroll. The scroll bearers won't fight you, they will only run away from you and hide. Now that you know your objective, some additional rules. If you cause collateral damage while chasing the scroll bearers, you fail. If you endanger civilians, you fail. If you use excessive force or even kill the scroll bearers, not only will you fail, but you will be arrested for murder. You have 3 hours to get a scroll, meaning that any team at 1 in the afternoon sharp short a scroll will be eliminated. You will be handed a wireless radio so that you can keep in contact with your teammates. You will have to turn those radios back once the exam is over. If you break it or lose it, you will have to pay for a new one. And lastly, once the exam ends, all teams who passed should come back here with their respective scrolls. That would be all. Do you guys have any questions? Nearly everybody raised their hands. Shursui groaned and pinched the bridge of his nose. No, the scroll bearers won't hide their scroll inside their rectums. Nearly all hands went down and only a few remained. Shursui nodded to a random Konoha ninja. I noticed that there are not enough scroll bearers for all of us, the Konoha ninja pointed out. Correct. The number of scroll bearers is exactly half the number of teams, meaning that only the better half of the present teams will advance to the next phase. At best, Shursui replied. He then nodded to Asuna ninja, who happened to be Kankuro. Can we steal a scroll from another team? The puppeteer asked.
No.
Not only fighting against other teams is forbidden, but the moment a team retrieves a scroll, said team will automatically pass. And don't think you guys can fool me. I have eyes everywhere. Yeah, except in the right side of your face, a random Konoha ninja said, making other genin to laugh at his joke. Shursui made a hand seal, and he body flickered in front of the genin, startling him. What is your name, kid? Am Masio. The kid, Masio, babbled. Team Masio failed, Shursui announced with a sly grin as he body flickered back to the podium and saw Masio's two teammates shooting murderous glares at him. If you want to make things easier for your rivals and alleviate some competition like Masio just did, do not hesitate to insult, annoy, or irritate the proctor, namely me. Any more questions? Nobody raised their hand. If that's the case, then good luck to everybody and let us begin. Shursui made a hand motion, and all the scroll bearers scattered in every direction. After a couple seconds of fumbling, the genin teams immediately went to chase them. Lastly, Shursui made a hand seal and created 4 shadow clones. All right, let's get the party started. Shursui and his clones body flickered in a different direction each. Asuma's tactical squad had already locked onto a scroll bearer and were currently chasing him. Ino suddenly perked up. My gossip senses are tingling like crazy. Another boy we know developed a crush on a girl he just met. Ino squealed. You and your troublesome gossiping. Shouldn't you focus on the matter at hand? Shikamaru asked, a bit annoyed. Besides, that person is obviously Rock Lee. He was all over Sakura. Not Rock Lee, somebody else besides him. Meanwhile, Kurenai's assault squad was also chasing a scroll bearer that Hinata had located with her Byakugan. Haku then spoke up. Guys, what do you think of that girl, Tenten? Naruto just shrugged. I don't know. She seems nice. Hinata nodded in agreement. I couldn't talk to her much, but she made a good impression. Why do you ask, Haku-kun? Nothing in particular, the ice ninja replied while averting his gaze. All genin teams started their hunt for the scrolls. Many of them thought that the challenge was an easy one, even if only half the teams would pass. Still, soon they found that trying to hold themselves from causing collateral damage was way harder than they initially expected. A random Konoha genin tossed several shuriken at a scroll bearer, who managed to dodge them while he fled. The shuriken would have shattered a window display if it wasn't for an ANBU suddenly appearing seemingly out of nowhere and deflecting the steel stars. Shursui, or one of his clones, body flickered into the scene a second later. You caused collateral damage. Team Tadaki of Konoha failed. Shursui wasn't lying when he said he had eyes everywhere. There were multiple ninja, many of them Hyuga hidden, who would watch the Chunin hopefuls, intervene before they could cause some collateral damage or engaged in blatant rule-breaking, and lastly would warn Shursui via radio if a team was to be failed or passed. And thus, many teams started to drop from the competition as they unwittingly broke the rules Shursui had established earlier. You put civilians in danger. Team Ozeki from Suna failed. You used excessive force against a scroll bearer. Team Kuro from Konoha failed. You caused collateral damage. Team Keyed from AIM failed. You engaged in combat with another team. Team Hiroshi from Konoha failed. And as so many teams failed during the first hour of the exam, the remaining teams found it much easier chasing and capturing their targets. Jumping from roof to roof, Kankuro was chasing one of the scroll bearers. Little did he know that the puppeteer's sister was on her way to cut the chase. She suddenly appeared beside him, war fan already unfolded. Sickle Weasel Jutsu. Tamari swung her fan, casting a powerful gust of wind that tossed the scroll bearer into the air. But before the yellow-clad ninja could fall, sand wrapped around his body, encasing him in a cocoon with only the head exposed. The sand also grabbed the scroll from its hiding place and pulled it outside the sand cocoon, where Gaara grabbed it. Shursui appeared besides Gaara. Team Baki from Suna passed and disappeared just as quick. Kiba was rushing on all fours, with Akamaru running beside him, both of them chasing another scroll bearer through a street, doing their best to avoid the walking civilians. Tamaki jumped in front of him, cutting his escape and forcing him to turn back at Kiba. The Inuzuka grabbed a kunai and tossed it at the scroll bearer, who easily caught it mid-air before resuming his escape. However, the kunai then burst into dozens of beetles, who spread all over his body. Ah, what the hell is this? Get those bugs from me! The scroll bearer yelled as he tried to get rid of the bugs. Shino suddenly appeared behind him. I can tell my Kikai beetles to leave you alone, in exchange for the scroll. Okay, here you go. The scroll bearer pulled the scroll from a hidden pocket inside his flak jacket and tossed it at Shino, who immediately commanded the beetles to stop attacking the man. Shursui appeared besides them. Kakashi's animal squad passed. Kiba and Tamaki high-fived each other, while Shino allowed himself to smile. Sasuke was also chasing another scroll bearer while jumping across multiple roofs. When they reached a certain zone, Sasuke tapped his radio. Karen, the target will pass you in a few seconds. Get ready, the Uchiha warned. Yeah, I'm sensing him right now. Don't worry, Sasuke-kun, the redhead replied. The gap separating the next building was much wider, but the scroll bearer knew he could jump that distance. What didn't expect was that, when he was in mid-air, several chains coming from below wrapped themselves around his legs and pulled him down. The scroll bearer thought he was going to painfully slam against the ground. But that would have Karen and her team eliminated for using excessive force. So instead the yellow-wearing ninja was caught by Sakura's chakra-enhanced arms before he could touch the ground. Karen wasted no time and placed a kunai on the ninja's neck. The scroll. Now. The scroll bearer sighed and handed the scroll to the redhead before the pinkette dropped him on the ground. Sasuke immediately joined them, and upon seeing him, Karen raised the scroll at him like it was a trophy. Shursui Uchiha appeared before them. Shizun's medical squad passed, the one-eyed Uchiha announced before disappearing again. Yay, we passed. Sakura pumped her fist into the air. Good job you two, Sasuke said, making both girls blush and avert their gaze. Another scroll bearer was running away from Tutaki Ninja while running through a tree-dense area. He thought he had lost them when he suddenly found himself high into the air, a pair of feminine but very strong arms grabbing him by his armpits. What the hell? The scroll bearer yelled. Hey, what's up? Enjoying the view? I certainly am, Fu casually mentioned. Though I can tell that you aren't enjoying the flight, so let's do this. You'll give me the scroll, and I place you on the ground. Okay? Since the scroll bearer wasn't allowed to fight back, he sighed and handed Fu the scroll. However, the Jinchuriki didn't realize that she had dropped the former scroll bearer in order to grab the scroll. Oops! She yelped before quickly flying down in order to catch the man before he crashed against the ground. She managed to grab him by his ankles when his face was 1 meter from the ground. Shui appeared before her. Team Fu from Taki passed. Yes. Fu pumped both fists in the air and accidentally dropped the scroll bearer, who fell face first into the ground. Oops, sorry. There was something Shui purposefully left out of the explanation. The scroll bearers that lost their scrolls to the genin teams wouldn't leave. They would stick around, making many teams futilely chase and capture them, only to realize that they didn't have a scroll anymore. Fortunately for Guy's close combat squad, Lee, they had a Byakugan user among them who could identify which one of the scroll bearers still had a scroll within them. Rock Lee was now chasing one of them. 10-10. I'm getting close to your position, Lee warned through the radio. Roger that, 10-10 replied. As soon as she saw the scroll bearer followed by her green-clad teammate, she knew it was time to act. Unsealing art. Improvised spear prison. 10-10 leaped above the scroll bearer, unfolded a scroll, which immediately rained many spears above the unsuspecting target, which stabbed into the ground around him. He was about to mock 10-10 for missing, but he soon realized that the spears around him formed a tight cage and was unable to move. All right, the scroll. 10-10 extended a hand. I don't have a scroll anymore. A team from AIM took it from me, the scroll bearer said. He's lying. Niji landed near them, his Byakugan activated. The scroll is in a hidden pouch in his left trouser leg. Following Niji's instructions, 10-10 retrieved the scroll and showed it to her teammates. Shui appeared besides them. Guy's close combat squad passed, the one-eyed Uchiha announced, much to the genin's joy. Come on, let's see how many more people has passed, 10-10 suggested as she and her teammates left the area. Hey, don't leave me here, the scroll bearer protested. Jumping from one roof to another, an army of Narutos were chasing a scroll bearer that Hinata assured he still had a scroll within his body. While Naruto could try to capture him himself, he was actually leading the unsuspecting yellow-clad ninja to a trap. Hinata was following Naruto's progress with her Byakugan. Hokakuin, Naruto-kun, and the scroll bearer are heading towards your position. Is the trap ready? Hinata asked through her radio. I see them. And to answer your question, yes. The target will fall in my trap in 3, 2, 1. The moment the scroll bearer jumped into another roof, he immediately slipped and fell on his butt. Ice? The scroll bearer asked, confused. Haku made several hand seals. Ice release. Ice prison jutsu. The scroll bearer's hands and feet were encased in blocks of ice, immobilizing and pinning him to the ground. Haku searched the man and found the scroll where Hinata had said it would be, in a hidden pocket inside the flak jacket. Shui appeared before Haku. Kurenai's assault team passed WHO. The one-eyed ninja slipped on the ice and fell on his butt. Sorry. Does that mean we still pass? Haku meekly asked. As teams started to either fail or pass, the scroll bearers, both who still had their scroll and those who hadn't, found that there were much less teams going after them. Many of them relaxed and fell prey to ambushes set by the remaining teams. Shadow imitation jutsu. Upon locating a scroll bearer, Shikamaru used his family's signature jutsu in order to trap him. The scroll bearer immediately ran away. He was hoping to leave the shadow behind, but Shikamaru was able to find more shadowed spots in order to prolong his jutsu. The scroll bearer ran into Ino and Choji, the latter who had enlarged his arms, and raised them in order to slam him. But when he was about to jump back, he found himself unable to do so. Shadow initiation jutsu, success. The scroll bearer heard Shikamaru announced. What? How did you catch me without me noticing? The scroll bearer asked. Take a look at my shadow, Choji mentioned. The scroll bearer realized that Choji's enlarged arms were projecting a huge shadow, which the Nara used to his advantage. "Now, Ino, if you're so kindly." Ino nodded and placed her hand on the scroll bearer's head. After probing his mind, she found the scroll in a hidden pocket in the back of his flak jacket. Shursui appeared from thin air. "Asuma's tactical squad passed," he announced before disappearing again. The 3 members of said squad loudly cheered, even Shikamaru, while jumping and pumping their fists in joy. The first part of the exams came to an end a whole hour before the time limit, when the last team who hadn't claimed a scroll was eliminated due to breaking one of the rules and using too much force when dealing with a scroll bearer. Now, all the past teams were once again in front of the podium with Shursui on it. Shursui was pleased with his work. Of all the 52 teams that were initially competing, only 22 managed to pass the first phase. Less than a half. 10 teams from Konoha, 4 teams from Suna, 2 teams from Taki, 2 teams from Kusa, 3 teams AIM, and a single team from Kumo. "Congratulations to all of you who passed the first part of the exam," Shursui said, and the genin congratulated each other. Nowadays, a lot of people think that being a ninja is just a matter of raw power. While power is important, controlling said power is just as important. Sometimes, you will need to capture a ninja who has valuable intel without harming them. Sometimes, a battle will break within the walls of your village, so you will need to fight without endangering civilians or causing damage to the village. People who always fight without restraint, without caring about causing collateral damage or without keeping in mind the mission don't deserve to be chunin. But you demonstrated that you can think outside the box, that you can solve a problem without relying on raw power or brute force. Now, you'll go into the next phase of the exam, when your abilities will be tested further. And without further ado, meet the proctor of the second phase of the exam. And with that, Shursui, using his signature ability, disappeared from there. A few seconds passed, and the genin started to murmur, wondering who this proctor was or where he or she was. The answer came in the form of a giant sword falling from above against the podium, splintering it instantly, while the sword stabbed itself into the ground. The genin felt a wave of killing intent, and suddenly, a tall, broad man with spiky black hair was standing on one foot on the sword's hilt, a man Haku knew too well. "Hello, brats. My name is Zabuza Momochi, and I'm the proctor of the second phase of the exam." The former Kiri ninja introduced himself. Many genin couldn't help but cower in fear before the imposing man before them. "Those who think that you are already chunin because you passed this part of the test will have another thing coming, because my test will push you to your very limits, and will weed the weak from the strong. Take this day to rest because you will need all the rest you can. Meet me tomorrow at Training Ground 39. Make sure you bring supplies for at least a week, as well as the scroll you obtained on this test. It's about time you learn the reality of the ninja world. That's all. Senju Residence, nighttime. The entire Senju Uzumaki family was having a special dinner together to celebrate that both Naruto and Shizun's teams had successfully passed the first round of the exam. It might not seem like much, but given that more than half the teams competing were sent home, it was a big deal. Still, both Naruto and Shizun knew that the worst was yet to come. "So, is Naruto Nizun a chunin now?" Kaida asked. "Nope. He only passed the first phase of the exam. He still has more things to do," Hagain replied. "Still, he's on the way. These exams separate the great from the mediocre. And it's good to see that Naruto leans to the former," Tsunade commented. "By the way, Naruto," Jiraiya interceded. "Besides yours and Shizun's team, did any of your other former classmates pass?" Naruto nodded affirmatively. "All of them, actually." "Ah." Jiraiya clapped his hands. "I knew it. Thanks to my educational reform, the new generation of genin will grow up to become the strongest ninja Konoha ever produced. That's how great and awesome of a Hokage I am." Jiraiya high-fived Naruto, while Tsunade and Shizen both rolled their eyes. By the way, how did you let that Kiri guy be an exam proctor? Naruto asked, still a bit terrified of Zabuza. Haku had told both him and Hinata about the former seven ninja swordsman, but the man was way more impressive in person. Let's say that he had some interesting ideas for the exams. You see, the exams in Kiri are way more brutal, and I think we could borrow something from that. Jiraiya, Tsunade shouted. I hope you're not planning to turn our village into another blood mist. No, of course not. The white-haired Sannin raised his hands in defense. I just want to prepare the kids for the real world. That's it. Besides, since our genin are way stronger, by increasing the exam's difficulty, we make sure it's them instead of foreign genin who advance into the final phase of the exam. By the way, Naruto, Shizun interjected, what do you think about the exam so far? Was it easy? Difficult? It wasn't as bad as I thought, but veterans said that the first part is usually the easiest, and I'm not getting very good vibes for whatever that Zabuza guy has in store for us. Naruto shivered a bit. Come on, kid, after all the things you told me you faced in the land of the rice fields, I don't think genin from other villages will be much of a challenge in comparison, Tsunade said while lightly punching Naruto in the shoulder. Yeah, guess that you're right, Naruto conceded. That's the spirit. Besides, not every kid has the luck being trained by a ninja as awesome as me, Jiraiya proudly stated. Tsunade cleared her throat in a rather not subtle way. Oh yes, and your mom too. The thing is, we're sure that you'll make us proud, Naruto Tsunade added.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.